A civilization survival game suddenly appeared and chose me as a player. It detected my human bloodline and gave me the class, farmer, with a talent that lets me identify wild plants and boost crop yields by 20%. My beginner world was drawn as wilderness survival. The rules were simple but harsh. Survive 3 years, build a shelter, and if I fail, death, memory wipe, and disaster for all of human civilization. I just finished a hardcore survival game on my computer when gray fog wrapped around me and dropped me into this place. I landed on a grassy plain with wild grass up to my knees and enormous trees hundreds of meters tall. 9 other people appeared with me. A chubby guy with glasses who was obsessed with novels, a black man praying on the ground, a Japanese guy cursing angrily, and others. Most of them weren't Chinese. A man named Charles spoke up first. He was around 40, wore a suit, and looked like a typical Western elite. He said we should work together, find water, and build a shelter. Everyone listened to him. But when he started walking uphill to look for water, I stopped him. Any survival fan knows water flows downhill. You search in low terrain, not high ground. Charles smiled, admitted I was right, and changed direction, but something about him felt off to me. We walked for over 2 hours without finding water. People were getting tired. Then the chubby glasses guy came up to me and whispered, asking if I was Chinese and if I was the main character. I told him I was Chinese, but definitely not the main character. Right at that moment, a mechanical voice echoed in my mind. An ability metal system had fused with my soul, and something called the Walker Metal activated. After walking for 2 hours straight, a mechanical voice told me I'd unlocked the Beginner Walker Metal. It cuts my stamina use by 10% and boosts walking speed by 5%. My legs immediately felt lighter, like I'd put on perfect shoes. To upgrade it, I need to walk 100 kilometers total. I realized this metal system was actually a mod I'd downloaded for that survival game I used to play. Somehow it fused with my soul. By meeting certain conditions, I can unlock different ability metals, each with unique effects. A real cheat ability, like something out of a novel. The chubby guy with glasses introduced himself as Li Xianming. He kept insisting I must be the main character because I'm apparently the best-looking one here, and my surname Lin is one of the classic protagonist surnames in web novels. He was dead serious about sticking with me. I told him I'm no main character. If I were, I'd already be overpowered from the start. Li Xianming also filled me in on our teammates. Besides us 2 Chinese guys, there's Charles and another American, a black man named Peel, a Japanese guy, an Indian, 3 white guys from unclear countries, and 1 bearded man who's probably Russian based on his accent. 10 men from different nations forced to cooperate. It's almost like raising venomous insects in a jar. Then Peel shouted that he heard running water. We all listened. Sure enough, the sound of a stream. Everyone rushed toward it and broke through the trees to find a small, winding river with clear water. There were fish in it too, but strange ones. They looked like oversized sardines with only 1 big eye on their heads. Definitely not Earth. Charles suggested this open riverbank wasn't safe enough for a shelter, and the Japanese guy Inoue Saburo immediately agreed, like an eager dog seeking approval. Everyone looked at me. I just nodded. He was right this time. It was too exposed. I noticed people were already forming small groups. Li Xianming naturally stayed at my side. The others seemed oddly tense around me, more so than around Charles. My earlier correction about the water direction had shown them I actually knew survival skills. We followed the river upstream through a forest and found a valley with a large pond, flat open ground, mountains on 2 sides, forest on 1 side, and the river flowing out the other. A natural defensible position with water access, perfect for a camp. Charles suggested we build the shelter here. This time, nobody disagreed. We all confirmed the campsite location near the pond, and a voice in our heads made it official. The game announced that a 1-kilometer radius around the pond was now our shelter zone. Several systems activated at once: an attribute panel, a contribution point system, a shop, and a chat channel. We also got 30 days of newbie protection. I opened my attribute panel. My stats were all pretty low: strength, agility, and constitution at 5, spirit at 6, with 100 life and 100 stamina. My class was level 1 farmer. But the interesting part was my talents. I had 2. The ability metal system, which the game treated as a personal talent, and a second one called Human Supremacy. Whenever I kill a powerful non-human creature, I gain attribute boosts. I didn't think of myself as bloodthirsty, but that's what the game gave me. The camp shop only sold blueprints: campfire, stone axe, house, spear, all costing contribution points, which I had 0 of. Then I opened the chat channel, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't just our team chatting. Messages flooded in from other civilizations: insect civilization, bat people, deep sea civilization, parasitic beasts, orcs. They talked about harvesting new civilizations for nutrients, stealing world coordinates, and invading weaker worlds. Some mentioned that wilderness worlds like ours were especially deadly. It hit me hard. If we fail this game, Earth won't just lose us. It'll probably get invaded by these alien civilizations. We weren't just playing for ourselves anymore. I kept that to myself and went to gather firewood near the forest edge. The forest surrounding our camp was dense and dark, with thick vines like walls. I spotted some dark red stones that looked like iron ore. No large animals appeared, probably because of the newbie protection period. When I came back, everyone was arguing. Charles declared that since America is the beacon of human civilization, he should lead. The Japanese guy Inoue Saburo suddenly dropped his groveling act and demanded his great empire should be in charge instead. Then the bearded Russian, Ivan, spat on the ground, said no one commands him, claimed the spot near the pond for himself, and walked off swinging his massive fists. With that, any hope of cooperation fell apart instantly. I said, everyone survives on their own skill, turned around and left. Li Xianming followed me without hesitation. Before trust is built, cooperation is impossible. Scheming is more like it. I took Li Xianming with me since we're both Chinese, which gives us a natural basis of trust. In this undeveloped wilderness, 2 people working together beats going solo. Everyone spread out across the 1-kilometer camp zone to claim their own spots. Ivan the Russian took the area closest to the pond, the safest position. I picked the eastern side, backed by a cliff to the north and forest to the east. Charles and his ally grabbed the center. The Japanese guy Inoue and 2 others settled near Charles. Li Xianming and I ended up the farthest from everyone else, which was fine by me. Li Xianming asked what we should do first. I tested him, and he gave a decent answer. Fire first, then food, then shelter. He tried drilling wood to make fire, but only got blisters. That's when I pulled out a lighter I'd found in my pocket while gathering wood. No idea who put it there, but it saved us a lot of trouble. The moment the fire started, a system notification asked if I wanted to donate the fire source to the camp. Donating personal resources earns contribution points, but the resource becomes public. Anyone can use it. I donated immediately and got 10 points. Then came the real kicker. The player with the highest contribution can spend points to assign camp-wide mandatory missions that everyone must participate in. So this game isn't just about surviving the wilderness and competing against alien civilizations. There's also internal competition within our own camp. I checked the contribution leaderboard. I was the only name on it. The system offered to hide my ranking from others, and I chose to hide it right away. No need to paint a target on myself. With 10 points, I bought blueprints from the shop: stone axe, campfire, and spear, 1 point each. Using the blueprints sent crafting knowledge straight into my brain. I rebuilt my fire properly, then carbonized a straight piece of wood into a simple wooden spear. Meanwhile, Charles and the others were still struggling to start their fires by friction. When they spotted smoke rising from my area, they were stunned. Then they saw me strolling through camp carrying a finished spear, and that hit them even harder. I walked past Ivan at the pond. He noticed my fire but didn't say a word, just rubbed his sticks harder. I found 2 axe-shaped river stones for crafting my stone axe, then decided to see if I could catch some food while I was at it. I tried spearing fish in the pond but kept missing. Those one-eyed sardines were too quick and seemed to mock me by swimming back after I walked away. That made me angry enough to ditch the spear and just hurl rocks at them instead. Turns out area bombardment beats precision strikes. I got 5 fish and called it a win. I spent half an hour sharpening a river stone into a blade, gutted all 5 fish, and cleaned them. The system offered contribution points if I donated them, but I refused. These were for us. I carried the fish through camp on my spear, and Charles's group stared with red eyes. 2 hours in, and they still hadn't even made fire. They gave up on their sticks and ran toward the river to catch fish themselves. Back at our spot, Li Xianming was struggling to chop a tiny tree with a rock. I handed him my sharpened stone, and we cut down 2 wrist-thick trees for axe handles. My stamina was down to 30, way more exercise than I'm used to. Li Xianming had found some wild berries. My farmer talent activated when I touched them and identified them as non-toxic, edible, and able to restore a little stamina, though eating too many increases hunger. Handy trick. I asked about his class and talents. He's a chef. His family were cooks for generations, so the game assigned it automatically. His talent lets him identify whether food is poisonous and gives a chance to cook food with special effects. His personal talent is called Lucky One. Fortune just favors him. I thought to myself, he might actually be the real main character with that kind of talent. But I'd never leave my fate to luck. I let him handle roasting the fish since cooking gives his chef class experience points. That made me wonder, does my farmer class only level up from farming? Something to figure out later. While he cooked, I built a stone axe using the blueprint knowledge. Carve a hole in the handle with a small sharp rock, burn it wider with charcoal, fit the sharpened stone in, then tie it tight with bark rope. Our first real tool. The moment I finished, my ability metal system activated again. Crafting metal unlocked. Having made 3 items now, campfire, wooden spear, stone axe, I got 10% faster hand speed and 5% more finger dexterity. I immediately wondered if cooking could also trigger a metal, so I took over the last 2 fish from Li Xianming. He misread my intense expression and got nervous, but I told him to relax and go chop more wood. We figured out he's from Guizhou and I'm from Sichuan. We joked about wishing we had chili peppers and fish mint for dipping sauce. It felt more like a picnic than wilderness survival. The roasted sardine tasted great, fresh and sweet, just missing salt. It restored some stamina too. We split the last fish between us, half each. After eating, our stamina recovered to 60 and we got back to work. I told Li Xianming to contribute some resources to the camp when prompted, but to keep enough for us first. I wanted to test if cooking could unlock a metal. My first 2 fish came out badly, one burnt, one undercooked. No metal triggered. Then I realized the trick. I needed to make 3 different dishes. So I roasted some berries on a stick and mashed others onto the half-raw fish. Once all 3 were done, the cooking metal activated. 5% better smell and 5% better taste while cooking. Upgrading it requires 100 dishes though, which would be impossible for someone British. I figured out the pattern for metals. Repeating one activity or completing certain tasks triggers them. No hints beforehand. You just have to stumble into the conditions. I turned off the annoying contribution prompts that kept popping up every time I touched anything, then made a second stone axe and headed back to the river. Others were already there stabbing at fish with sticks, looking frustrated. I used my rock-throwing method instead, which worked much better. They watched, caught on, and copied me. Those poor river fish experienced their first meteor shower. The area was surprisingly rich in resources, fish everywhere, berries in the forest. It felt more like vacation than survival, which actually worried me. Easy beginnings usually mean harder times ahead. I caught 6 more one-eyed sardines plus a strange fish with 3 small horns and sharp teeth. I also picked up 5 more stones for making axes and 2 dark red rocks that likely contain iron. Back at camp, Li Xianming showed off his work. He'd chopped some trees and donated 1 unit of wood to the camp for 1 contribution point. But here's the interesting part. The donated wood was still physically there. I thought it might be a bug, but when I tried to grab his private wood, the system warned me it belonged to him, and I'd need his permission plus 1 contribution point to take it. I couldn't even move it by force. But once he agreed to share, I picked it up no problem. So the game has a private property protection system. You can't steal from other players. That's actually reassuring. Still, I couldn't help complaining. What kind of game has no tutorial and makes you figure out every rule yourself? I couldn't figure out why this game forces teammates to compete against each other while also facing outside threats. Maybe it's like raising venomous insects in a jar. Only the survivor wins. Or maybe something out there enjoys watching the drama. Either way, I can't fight the system, so I'll play by the rules and stay alive. As long as I'm breathing, there's always a chance. In under an hour, I made 5 stone axes and donated them all to the camp for 10 contribution points. 1 point per blueprint, 2 points per finished product. The game's a total scam. Then I spent 2 hours clearing grass and bushes around our campfire area so bugs wouldn't crawl on us at night. Then Charles and Inoue Saburo showed up looking aggressive, wanting fire. I'd already donated the fire source to the camp, meaning it was public property, but they didn't know that. I decided to exploit that information gap. I told them fire costs something in trade. Inoue started barking insults, then raised his stick to attack me. I was ready to take him out, but the game system beat me to it. A warning appeared, docking him 1 attribute point for attempting violence against a teammate. 3 warnings means death. He froze, face twisted between rage and fear. I set my terms. They pay with privately owned fish, and Inoue has to slap himself 10 times before I share fire with him. Charles agreed instantly. He'd already expected to pay, and sacrificing Inoue's face meant nothing to him. When Inoue's first slap was too soft, I commented on his lack of sincerity. He ended up hitting himself until his face swelled like a pig's head. I got a fish out of the deal. Then I checked the contribution leaderboard. I was first with 12 points, hidden. Charles was second with 2. Everyone else had 1 each. Now I could see all their names and countries. 2 Americans, a Russian, a Brit, a Frenchman, the Japanese guy, an Indian, and a South African. Charles and Inoue took their fire back, both secretly planning to resell it to others for resources. They thought they'd cornered the fire market. Inoue was already scheming to climb the contribution rankings and eventually get me kicked out of camp. But I'd anticipated that. I'd whispered instructions to Li Xianming right after they left. Before Charles or Inoue could make a single trade, Li Xianming ran to the middle of camp and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Free fire for everyone." Lin Che donated the fire source to the camp. "Come get it." My free fire giveaway ruined Charles and Inoue's schemes. Their faces went dark. But I noticed the sky was dimming fast, maybe half an hour until full darkness. Ivan invited everyone to gather at his spot for the night, since it was the safest location. Li Xianming and I ate our roasted fish with berries, then headed over with all our stone axes. Everyone was already huddled around Ivan's fire. We agreed to take turns on night watch, 2 shifts per night, decided by drawing lots. I got lucky, second night, first shift. Then the sky went completely black. Total darkness except for a faint red moon overhead. That's when the system dropped a bombshell. Since we all survived day 1, it was time to elect a camp master. The camp master can spend contribution points to issue mandatory tasks for everyone. Anyone who fails gets kicked out, unless they pay 10 times the cost to skip it. The system detected that I had the highest contribution and made me camp master for 1 month. Everyone except Li Xianming looked furious. Inoue screamed he'd never take my orders. Charles calmly suggested everyone just do their own thing. Then the others piled on, shouting about democracy, freedom, independence. Charles sat back smiling, thinking he'd turn me into a powerless figurehead. I didn't bother arguing. I just used my authority immediately, spending 2 contribution points to issue a camp-wide task. Starting tomorrow, every member must chop 10 units of wood daily for wall construction, lasting 1 month. No reward. Failure means losing 5 contribution points, and 3 failures in a row costs an attribute point. Skipping costs 20 contribution points. Everyone went silent instantly. Charles's smug smile froze on his face. They hadn't expected me to simply ignore their protests and force the task through. The task wasn't unreasonable. Based on Li Xianming's pace, 10 units was doable with effort, leaving spare time for personal work and earning contribution points. I wanted to push them, but still leave enough room so they'd stay motivated. Then I pulled out the 5 stone axes I'd brought. 1 contribution point each. Everyone was stunned again. They'd seen the blueprint in the shop, but hadn't bought it yet. Inoue, who'd just wasted a point buying the blueprint himself, tried to claim my axes were public property since I'd donated them. I shut him down. They were donated to camp, but distribution was my call as camp master. 5 payment notifications came in instantly. Charles, Ivan, and 3 others bought axes without hesitation. 5 points back in my pocket. I'd already recovered what I spent, and then some. 7 out of 10 people now had tools. The remaining 2 without axes? Well, I only made 7, and Li Xianming and I needed ours. The camp task applied to me too, no loopholes. But I didn't mind chopping wood. I had a feeling that enough chopping might unlock a new metal. That night by the fire, I thought about strategy. Everyone has a starting class that gains experience from related work. Li Xianming proved it by earning XP from cooking. As difficulty increases over time, leveling up our classes will be the key to getting stronger. My farmer class needs farming to level, but there's no farmland yet and no time to clear any. So for now, I'll rely on my ability metal talent to keep growing. Meanwhile, I should get Li Xianming cooking for as many people as possible to boost his chef experience. The night passed without incident. Peel took first watch, then the French guy Alec, who was nearly asleep by dawn. My stamina had fully recovered to 100 after sleeping. I kicked Li Xianming awake. He grabbed his axe ready to fight before realizing it was just me. We headed to the forest edge to start the daily wood task, eating berries from our pockets for breakfast. Each unit of wood had to be at least shin thick, no small branches counted. Chopping one tree took about 20 minutes with these crude stone axes, and after 5 trees each, both our axes broke. I had to go make new ones. On the way through camp, I saw Inoue had managed to make 2 stone axes of his own. He was sitting at number 2 on the contribution board with 3 points. I also discovered the system wouldn't give contribution points for donating stone axes anymore, since everyone already had one. My plan to farm points that way was dead. I also tried to donate extra axes, but got no points. The system blocked repeated exploitation of the same item type. By late morning, we finally finished all 10 units. Right then, a new metal activated, the lumberjack metal. It increased my arm strength, improved my chopping technique, and boosted woodcutting efficiency by 5%. The effect was immediate. My sore arms felt fresh, my biceps actually looked bigger, and my next tree only took about 12 minutes instead of 20. At 10 trees per day, I could upgrade to the intermediate metal in 10 days. After hauling all the wood back, Li Xianming collapsed to rest. I went back out alone to collect tree resin for making torches, plus thatch roots that my farmer talent identified as edible. Anything useful I saw, I grabbed. There was still too much to do, and the camp had basically nothing. After a full morning of work, Li Xianming cooked us a great lunch. His skills were clearly improving with each meal. I sent him to gather more food and trim the felled trees while I focused on the next big project, building a clay furnace for smelting iron. I bought the furnace blueprint from the shop for 1 contribution point. The knowledge poured into my head: construction methods, materials needed, every detail. Clay was available where I dug up thatch roots, and iron, ore, and limestone were scattered everywhere. But building it alone would take too long. I went to the others and proposed the iron smelting project. Nobody refused. After a morning of chopping trees with stone axes that barely worked, they were desperate for better tools. No need to force this one through as a camp task. Everyone volunteered. The daily wood chopping task would continue anyway, and those logs could double as charcoal fuel for the furnace. Then someone screamed for help. It wasn't Li Xianming. I grabbed my spear and axe and ran toward the sound. The others followed. We found Arthur clinging to a tree with a pack of gray wolves circling below, 7 of them, bigger and meaner looking than any earth wolves. 8 of us against 7 wolves. We had numbers and stone axes. I was tense but not scared. Ivan was practically shaking with excitement at the thought of fresh meat. He told everyone to act weak so the wolves wouldn't flee. But he needn't have worried. These wolves had never seen humans before and charged straight at us. 2 guys, James and Alec, got tackled immediately. 1 wolf lunged at me so fast I could barely see it. I braced my wooden spear and thrust forward. The wolf's own momentum drove it through the spear, stopping a hand's width from my face. Blood splattered across me. The wolf was still alive, so I grabbed my stone axe and smashed its skull until it stopped moving. I ran to Alec next. He was on the ground, holding a wolf's jaws open with his axe. I brought my axe down on its back, snapping its spine, then crushed its head. With 2 wolves dead, the alpha held a retreat. The remaining wolves fled into the forest, except the one Ivan had pinned. That man was a beast. He'd pried the wolf's jaws apart with his bare hands and literally tore its mouth open, killing it with raw strength. But James was gone. His throat was torn open, an artery severed. He couldn't speak, only looked at us with desperate eyes before the light faded from them. There was nothing anyone could do. Not in this world with no medicine, no tools, nothing. Everyone went silent. In just a few minutes, we'd lost our first teammate. The cruelty of this game was suddenly very real. Li Xianming came running with weapons, but seeing the body and the silence, he wisely shut up. Ivan told Arthur to carry James back to camp for burial, calling him a warrior. Arthur didn't dare argue, not with a man who'd just ripped a wolf apart barehanded. And we were still outside camp boundaries, where the no-violence rule didn't apply. I walked toward the 2 wolves I'd killed. That's when I finally heard the system notification. The system rewarded everyone with 5 contribution points for surviving the wolf attack, and I got 10 extra for my 2 kills. I didn't donate the wolves right away. First, we needed to get back to camp safely. Li Xianming and I each carried a wolf carcass back. These wolves were twice the size of Earth wolves, which explained their fearlessness. We buried James together at the camp's edge, and I could feel the atmosphere between all 9 of us shifting. No more posturing. Everyone understood now that this world could kill us at any moment. The first day's safety had made us careless, and it cost us a teammate. Arthur explained he'd been treed because he wandered outside camp alone, trying to raid a bird's nest. Brave or foolish, hard to say. Everyone gathered around the 3 wolf bodies, eyes moving between me and Ivan. They wanted to share, but couldn't take it by force. The system warned anyone who tried to touch our property. I even got an alert that Inoue and the Indian guy Ambani had attempted to steal from me. I thought it through. Keeping both wolves would make enemies. Donating one would earn contribution points, goodwill, and leverage. So I offered 1 wolf to the camp on 2 conditions. I keep the wolf skin, and everyone helps me build the clay furnace this month. Charles agreed on behalf of the group. Even Inoue looked scared of me now, completely different from yesterday's barking. I donated 1 wolf and got 15 contribution points. The others could split the meat among 6 people however they wanted. Dividing shared resources always causes friction, which suited me fine. Li Xianming and I hauled our wolf back to our fire. Then came the hard part, butchering it with stone tools. No sharp knives, just sharpened river stones and brute force. It took us from noon until near dark. My butchering was clumsy, and I damaged the wolf's skin in several places. Li Xianming cleaned the edible organs. I was down to 11 stamina, hands aching. I built a wooden rack to hang the meat high up and covered it with leaves to keep the blood smell from attracting predators overnight. I secretly donated our wolf to the camp too, another 15 contribution points that nobody would know about. Since donated items stay in your possession physically, I could still use everything. I just had to make sure nobody stole it. Then came the real surprise. After eating the wolf meat, a warm current flowed through my body and I gained 1 point in strength. The soreness from the whole day vanished, like getting a massage. This was incredible. Monster meat gives permanent stat boosts. I almost regretted giving the other wolf away. But what's done is done. As darkness fell, Li Xianming and I grabbed some wood and headed to Ivan's spot for the night. Everyone agreed to keep gathering at Ivan's spot for nighttime until we each had proper shelter. The wolf attack made that decision easy. External danger forces cooperation, but without it, we'd be a mess of competing interests. I learned Li Xianming is only 19. His optimism made more sense after that. I'd assumed he was in his 20s because of his weight. That evening, I sat making 2 new wooden spears since yesterday's broke in the wolf. Li Xianming was carving a wooden container. Ivan was butchering his wolf carcass, already halfway done. But the wolf I'd donated to the others? They'd barely touched it. The skin wasn't even removed. They'd just hacked off 2 legs and eaten the meat. So much for getting that wolf skin back. These people had 0 work ethic and, even less, contract spirit. If I'd had 10 Chinese teammates, that wolf would already be smoked jerky and the tools would be built. Instead, everyone was either lying down or sitting around doing nothing despite having full stamina from the wolf meat. Then Charles walked over and stood above me, demanding I cancel the wood-chopping task. I refused flat out. Tasks can't be canceled once issued. He pushed for reducing the quota. I refused again. That's when I stood up and addressed everyone. I told them the chopping task stays, the furnace project stays, and if anyone refuses, the camp master has the power to spend contribution points to start a vote to expel someone from the camp. I offered to test that feature right now. 3 voices exploded at once. Inoue called me a slave driver. Peel shouted about oppression, ironic, considering his ancestors' history. The French guy Alec demanded a 4-hour workday. 4 hours? We're fighting for survival, not on vacation. I don't even get that luxury back on Earth. They'd tried the classic Western playbook, unite against the leader, force concessions through collective pressure. But as the old saying goes, All imperialism is a paper tiger. My ancestors faced 17 nations and didn't flinch. 6 guys complaining wasn't going to scare me. Their little revolt made me decide to increase the next task's difficulty. Clearly this one was too light if they had energy left for scheming. One hard look from me silenced them all. After a pause, they actually got up, grabbed their tools, and started working, sharpening axes, making things. If you'd walked in right then, you'd have thought we were a hard-working team. Pathetic, they only move when pushed. Late that night, only Ivan and I were still awake. He was finishing his wolf processing, clearly anxious about survival. At least one person here had sense. Then Ivan sat down next to me and quoted a Chinese proverb, "Mending the fence after losing the sheep is never too late," and suggested we prioritize building walls. The system notified me that Ivan had spent 1 contribution point to formally submit this suggestion, requiring my response. But since my existing task already covered wall construction, the system auto-approved it. I asked Ivan if he hadn't read my task description properly. He turned red under that massive beard, muttered that he'd supervise the others tree chopping tomorrow, and walked away looking embarrassed. I watched him go, amused. The big guy who'd torn a wolf apart with his bare hands was awkward about a simple misunderstanding. That night on watch, staring into total darkness with only the fire crackling, I did a lot of thinking. The wolf attack changed something in me. When that wolf lunged, I was terrified, more scared than anyone. But knowing I'd die if I backed down gave me strength. Fear of death made me fight harder, not freeze. I decided to stop hoping for cooperation with these people. After I'd generously shared a wolf carcass, they'd repaid me by trying to challenge my authority. From now on, I'd rule them like a feudal lord. The game gave me the camp master title. I'd use every bit of that power to squeeze their sweat into building this camp. No more Mr. Nice Guy. I also worried about what's coming. The wolf pack is probably still out there. Wolves are smart and hold grudges. Our camp might be in their territory. And when the 30-day newbie protection ends, savage beasts, hostile alien civilizations, natural disasters, any of those could wipe us out. Li Xianming woke up for his shift and found me still brooding. He told me to stop overthinking and just treat this like an ultimate hardcore survival game. Ice Guy, survival, game system. People dream about this stuff, he said. We hit the jackpot. His cheerfulness was infectious. I told him to wake me if anything happened and went to sleep. Come morning, Li Xianming had been carving a wooden bucket all night. I splashed my face with cold river water, then saw the others still sleeping. I grabbed 2 wooden spears and smashed them together as loud as I could. They jolted awake in panic, screaming about danger. I gave them a flat apology with zero sincerity on my face and told them their daily wood quota was waiting. I quoted a Chinese saying, "Why sleep so long while alive? You'll have plenty of rest when you're dead." Then I walked away before anyone could argue. Li Xianming noticed something different about me. "You seem fearless today," he said. I told him I'm terrified of dying. He laughed and said he was too. With the lumberjack medal boosting me, I finished my 10-tree quota in under 2 hours, a third faster than before. Stone axes kept breaking though, reminding me how badly we need iron tools. By the end of the morning, I'd chopped 25 units of wood total, banking extra days' worth of quota. Li Xianming finished his share too. I sent him to cook while I gathered wild vegetables. My farmer talent let me identify what's edible and what's not, so I quickly collected plenty of greens and berries. The class was proving useful for foraging, but I still needed to find time to clear farmland if I wanted to actually level it up. After lunch, roasted wolf meat with berry sauce that Li Xianming made. I tried to donate the cooked food for free contribution points, but the system blocked it since the meat was already donated raw. No double dipping allowed. Also, eating wolf meat a second time didn't give any stat boost. Only the first time counts. I sent Li Xianming to start building a basic shelter using our donated wood and a house blueprint from the shop. He got completely absorbed in it like a kid playing a building game. Meanwhile, I started gathering materials for the clay furnace near the river, about 150 meters away, right where Inoue Saburo happened to have claimed his spot. Pure coincidence that his area had the best clay. I worked like an ant for hours, hauling clay, stones, and supplies. Then Li Xianming found me with a mysterious grin, holding a white rock. It was salt. I nearly lost my composure. Salt is essential for survival. Without it, you get dizzy, weak, and eventually die. I bit off a piece to confirm. incredibly salty. He'd wandered way outside camp, about 2 kilometers, chasing a one-eyed deer he'd spotted while gathering bark for rope. He remembered from videos that animals lick rocks when they need salt, so he waited for the deer to leave and checked. Sure enough, a salt deposit. I was angry he'd gone so far alone after yesterday's wolf attack, but I couldn't stay mad. His lucky talent had struck again. He told me to donate the salt mine myself since I needed contribution points more as campmaster. He said if I got stronger, his strategy of riding my coattails would work better. This kid was genuinely selfless about it, and it caught me off guard. At 19, trusting someone that completely, I remembered being like that once. I touched the salt deposit and donated it. 200 contribution points. My total shot up to 251. Ivan in second place didn't even have a fraction of that. The system also granted me Camp Elite status with a free immunity from 1 expulsion vote. Though since I was already camp master, that got overridden. With all those points, I went on a shopping spree in the camp store, basic construction blueprints, salt refining techniques, various technologies. Li Xianming and I split the learning between us. Knowledge poured into our heads like cramming for final exams. We joked that if school worked this way, we'd both have gotten into China's top universities. The others still thought my hidden contribution score was low and kept scheming to overtake me for the camp master position. Let them dream. I was so far ahead they couldn't catch me if they tried. Knowledge and blueprints filled our heads, but our bodies couldn't keep up. Stamina has limits. We had to rest between work sessions. Daytime was too short for everything we needed to do, and nighttime was too dangerous to work outside without walls. Time was never enough. I had Li Xianming refine salt while I continued building the furnace. The others were supposedly chopping wood, but I knew they were slacking, pretending to work all day on their tin tree quota while secretly stockpiling contribution points to overthrow me next month. The leaderboard told the whole story. Li Xianming's 8 points had already dropped out of the top 5. Still, none of them had even a fraction of my 251, so I wasn't worried. Just annoyed. Always someone plotting against the emperor. Ivan was the exception. He came back early with over a dozen logs, ate quickly, then walked straight over to help me build the furnace without being asked. We worked silently all afternoon, but with perfect coordination, and by evening the furnace had taken basic shape. We also started burning wood into charcoal beside it. 2 days until it's ready. Charles's group dragged themselves back at dusk looking half dead, immediately started eating wolf meat. I didn't bother with them. Li Xianming successfully refined salt that afternoon using a simple stone pot. When Ivan tasted salted roasted meat with us, his eyes lit up. He wanted to know where the salt came from, but I told him the location stays secret for now. He could get salt from Li Xianming anytime, but couldn't share it with the others. Ivan hesitated. He wasn't allied with Charles's group. He looked down on their power grabbing, but feared being isolated by both sides. The camp had split into factions like Earth's geopolitics. Me and Li Xianming on one side, Charles with Inoue, Alec, and others forming a block, and Ivan alone in the middle. Ivan helping me build the furnace meant Charles's recruitment had failed, but Ivan hadn't formally joined us either. I told him there was no rush to pick sides, just help finish the furnace. Li Xianming suggested we make clay pottery for cooking since we could only roast food without proper vessels. I agreed, but time was tight. Mornings for chopping, afternoons for the furnace and shelter. So we'd make pottery by firelight at night and fire it overnight. Meanwhile, on the other side of camp, Charles was painting a grand vision for his allies. 6 of them rotating the camp master position monthly, ruling like a new UN Security Council. He promised Inoue and the Indian guy the prestigious seats their countries always wanted, and told Peel he'd be the first black council member. They all nodded eagerly while hiding their own private schemes behind lowered eyes. Then Inoue suggested sabotaging our furnace. Everyone stared at him in horror and scooted away. Even he realized how stupid that sounded and shut his mouth. Charles sighed internally, wondering if these were really the teammates he had to work with. The nightly arrangement with Charles's group fell apart. They set up their own fire a few dozen meters away without a word. No surprise there. Our side became 3 people, me, Li Xianming, and Ivan, taking turns on watch. The next several days settled into a tense rhythm. Mornings, chopping wood for the camp task. Afternoons, Li Xianming built our shelter, Ivan and I worked on the furnace. Nights, We made clay pottery by firelight. Every minute was scheduled. Charles's group saw Li Xianming building a shelter and suddenly became incredibly productive. They cooperated and finished a 6-person cabin in under 3 days. Funny how self-interest turns lazy people into model workers. Li Xianming finished ours too. The simple wooden huts weren't big, but sleeping inside them dramatically improved rest quality and stamina recovery. On day 6, the clay furnace was finally complete. The system offered 50 contribution points if we donated it, but I held off for now. Then Ivan came to me with a request. He wanted to handle the iron smelting himself. I immediately guessed it. His starting class was blacksmith. He confirmed it with wide eyes. I'd originally planned to try smelting first to see if it would trigger a metal, then hand it off. But Ivan offered me priority on all iron produced and pledged to join my team and follow my lead. That was too good to refuse. 3-man team now. Me, Li Xianming, and Ivan. Li Xianming was thrilled. One more person to cook for meant more chef experience. On day 8, while chopping my 100th tree total, my lumberjack medal upgraded to intermediate. The effects were impressive. 1 permanent strength attribute, woodcutting efficiency up 15%. My strength hit 7, above average for a normal person. I could feel the muscle growth throughout my body. I briefly fantasized about being the strongest man in camp. Then Ivan came running over shirtless, holding a chunk of crude iron. He'd already smelted his first ingot. He told me he'd won a forging competition back on Earth and asked to use this iron for an axe and knife. The man was apparently a championship-level blacksmith hiding behind that wild beard and brute strength. Before he left, I couldn't resist asking his strength stat. He said it started at 8, plus 1 from the wolf meat, currently 9. Mine was 7. I watched him walk away carrying his iron and muttered to myself, everyone around me is either absurdly lucky or ridiculously overpowered in raw stats. My dream of being the camp's strongest man would have to wait. With pottery finally ready, Li Xianming cooked our first non-barbecue meal on day 8. A big stew of wolf meat with wild plants. The smell alone was incredible. The broth was warm and rich, the plants masked the gamey flavor, and the meat was tender and savory. Ivan and I burned our mouths, but couldn't stop shoveling food in. After 8 days of nothing but roasted meat, this was our first real meal. Ivan called Li Xianming the Chinese god of cooking. Li Xianming humbly said he still had room to improve. For a moment, sitting in the sunlight eating together, it felt like a pleasant picnic rather than wilderness survival. Food was becoming a concern, though. We'd eaten through most of our wolf meat, cleaned out the nearby berries, and even the river fish were thinning out. We'd need to explore farther, which meant more danger. I decided to make bows and arrows from the wolf sinew for ranged weapons before venturing out. I bought the blueprint from the shop, knowledge instantly absorbed, as always. Meanwhile, about 80 meters away, Charles's group was having a very different dining experience. Their chef was the Indian guy Ambani, who'd made his first stew. He called himself the god of cooking of India. Their wolf meat had been sitting for days without salt preservation and had started growing maggots. Ambani claimed he'd cut off the rotten parts. He mixed everything into a yellowish-brown paste with his secret seasoning. The moment they tasted it, chaos erupted. Vomiting everywhere. Alec threw up first, then everyone followed like dominoes. Arthur puked directly onto Ambani. Someone screamed that it looked and tasted like actual excrement. Charles was furious. Ambani dropped to his knees crying when they threatened to revoke his New World Security Council seat. The 3 of us watched from a distance, confused about why they seemed so upset, until the wind shifted and the smell hit us. We jumped up and ran. Li Xianming asked if they were cooking feces. Ivan and I both yelled at him to shut up before we lost our own lunch. We couldn't go back to our fire until the stench cleared, so we decided to just keep working. Whatever was happening over there, not our problem. Ivan worked on iron tools. I started crafting a compound bow, 2 bows bound together for greater power, and Li Xianming trimmed lumber as usual. Then the 6-man group showed up at our fire looking like ghosts. Pale faces, shaky legs, ragged clothes. Days without salt had weakened them, but the real blow was Ambani's feast at lunch that made them vomit everything up. They were desperate. They debated among themselves before coming. Peel suggested asking me for help. The others resisted at first. It meant admitting defeat. But as someone pointed out, they were nearly dead, and pride wasn't worth dying over. Inoue even quoted a Chinese proverb about bending and stretching, which another member pointed out he'd stolen from China, just like Korea does. When I heard their pitch, claiming I needed them for tree chopping, my fists clenched. 8 days in, and they hadn't built a single meter of wall beyond the bare minimum task quota. Now they want a charity? Li Xianming shouted that they were liars and not to trust them. But I've been planning for exactly this moment. Hiding the salt mine, letting them struggle, it was all leading here. I'd expected it to take a few more days, but they crumbled faster than anticipated. I let them sweat in silence, then agreed to help, with conditions. From now on, besides the daily tree quota, they must build 50 meters of wall per day. Food comes only after completing the work. Any slacking gets punishment. And I added one final twist. Anyone who reports a teammate for being lazy gets a reward, while the lazy one gets punished. That last part was pure strategy, an open scheme they couldn't counter. Even if they all agreed not to report each other, I'd only need to randomly punish one and reward another to shatter their unity. Planting distrust among people who already don't trust each other is the easiest thing in the world. They accepted everything without argument. Li Xianming made them food, and they went straight to building walls. After that, Ivan showed me the finished iron axe. It was rough in places, but the blade was razor sharp. Our camp had officially entered the Iron Age. He donated it to the camp, so I could use it too. Perfect weight, a real upgrade from stone. Iron ore was gone though. Ivan had enough leftover metal for just 2 arrowheads. I told him to make them, and I'd figure out the ore supply. Tomorrow I planned to take Li Xianming to explore beyond the camp. We needed resources, and staying within 1 kilometer was a dead end. I chose Li Xianming over Ivan for the trip because I needed Ivan to guard our food from the 6-man group. Li Xianming was too young and inexperienced to handle those crafty veterans. Ivan promised nobody would touch our supplies while I was gone. After telling Ivan the plan, I kept preparing for tomorrow's expedition. I chose Li Xianming partly because his lucky talent might keep us safer out there, even if it's just psychological comfort. Li Xianming fed the 6-man group, and they immediately noticed the salt. He shut them up before they could ask questions. After eating, they bought wall blueprints at my requirement, 1 contribution point each, and started building. The wall would run from the mountainside along the camp boundary, enclosing as much area as possible. How they solved the technical problems of driving stakes into the ground was their business. Li Xianming came to me worried. Feeding 9 people men our food would only last 2 days. I told him not to worry about it. We had 13 extra trees stockpiled beyond the daily quota, enough to skip tomorrow morning's chopping and go exploring instead. Then he asked something that had been bothering him. Why did I help those people after everything they did? I explained it to him, and honestly, to myself. If they die, we're down to 3 people trying to survive 3 years in this wilderness. Every living person is a resource. Even at minimum effort, each one provides 10 units of wood daily. Ivan forged the iron axe. Could we have done that alone? People are like double-edged swords, useful when managed right, dangerous when not. Truthfully, I wanted to let Charles, and especially Inoue, rot. The impulse to get rid of them has been there since day one. But reason beats emotion. The newbie protection period hangs over us. Nobody knows what comes after. Every pair of hands matters. Li Xianming asked if I was afraid they'd betray us. I told him I'm supposedly the main character, right? Main characters don't fear clowns. And keeping them around benefits him too. Cooking for 9 people means way more chef experience. He might level up in 2 or 3 days. That afternoon, the 6-man group worked surprisingly hard. Whether it was my reporting and reward scheme or genuine submission, they built 50 meters of wall before dark. 3-meter-tall posts, shin-thick, planted in the ground about a meter apart with crossbeams tied between them. More fence than wall, really, but the psychological security it provided was enormous. Later we'd reinforce and heighten it. Eventually this could become a proper compound with farmland inside. For the first time, I could actually see a path to completing the 3-year mission. By nightfall, I'd finished the compound bow. Ivan had forged the iron axe and 2 iron arrowheads. The 6-man group volunteered to handle night watch. Everyone gathered around one fire again for the first time in 5 days, acting like nothing had ever happened between us. Adults really do have skin 3 times thicker than teenagers. I spent the evening crafting arrows and sharpening spears for tomorrow. I didn't mention the exploration plan to the others. They assumed I was just building up weapons and started planning to copy me. No doubt they'd be making bows tomorrow. Early next morning, Li Xianming and I set out fully loaded. 2 iron axes, wooden spears, my compound bow, a day's worth of food, the wolfskin leather for mapping, charcoal for drawing, and various small tools. I told Ivan to guard the camp and our supplies. If we weren't back today, we'd return tomorrow for sure. We moved carefully outside the camp boundary. I avoided the river path since we'd already explored that direction, and stayed away from dense forest where getting lost was too easy. Instead, I picked routes through sparse brush where we could see the sky, leaving clear markers every 50 to 100 meters, chopped trees, scratches on rocks. I also checked the civilization chat channel during a rest break. It was completely silent. When I tried sending a message, the system told me the channel was sealed during the newbie protection period. Only camps that survive 30 days get access. That meant once protection ends, all civilizations will start talking, exchanging information, making contact, and inevitably fighting. 20-some days left. The urgency hit me hard, but I decided not to tell Li Xianming. Let the kid enjoy his carefree days a little longer. That's what being an older brother means. By late morning, we'd covered roughly 15 kilometers, slow because of the uncharted terrain and constant vine cutting. We encountered some wildlife, but nothing attacked us. When the forest ahead grew too dense, I turned us around and chose a different direction. Then we stepped out of the trees and saw something breathtaking. A massive lake, crystal clear, sparkling under the sun like a mirror laid on the earth. Lush grass lined the shores where herds of strange animals gathered. To our left stretched a vast plain where creatures hunted and fought, nature's law of survival playing out before our eyes. We stood there like 2 ants before something immeasurably grand. This was about 20 kilometers from camp. With a proper road built, this could become a permanent hunting ground, maybe even a site for a secondary shelter. That plain was a farmer's dream, but 9 people couldn't possibly develop it. I didn't take the same path back. Instead, I navigated along the lake's edge toward camp, taking a risk on an unexplored route. If we got lost, we'd waste precious time, but returning empty-handed would make the whole trip pointless. We found a small stream flowing from somewhere above down into the lake. I decided to follow it upstream as our last shot at finding something valuable, particularly iron ore, since our supply was completely spent. Li Xianming was breathing hard but insisted he was fine and took point to give me a break. I didn't call out his bluff. I was tired too, even with my walker metal reducing stamina costs. Then Li Xianming pointed across the stream. A large stretch of dark black rock face on the opposite bank. Let's go check it out, I said. I crossed the stream and chipped off a piece from the dark rock face. The interior confirmed it. High-quality iron ore. When I touched it, the system offered to let me donate it, but with a catch. The mine was over 10 kilometers from camp, outside our radiation range, so contribution points would be halved. I donated anyway and got 250 points. Stingy system. A whole iron mine worth barely more than a tiny salt deposit. My total contribution value doubled. But the real problem was how to actually mine and transport iron back to camp from this distance. Our people barely ventured 2 or 3 kilometers out after the wolf attack. Li Xianming was at his limit, so I decided we'd camp here overnight. I gathered firewood, lit a fire with the fire starter I'd made earlier, and caught some shellfish from the stream since there were no fish in it. Li Xianming cooked them into a decent river seafood stew. After he fell asleep, I studied the leather map by firelight. Our current position was roughly between the camp and the lake, forming a triangle. Tomorrow I'd cut straight back to camp instead of retracing our steps. If the route worked, we'd have mapped out that entire triangular area. Then I did something I should have done much earlier. Carefully reviewed every system interface. Today's discovery about the locked chat channel taught me I'd been ignoring the details, like skipping the terms of service on software installations. I noticed the camp shop only sells Earth-level technology. No supernatural abilities or anything beyond normal science. Even though everything about this game, stats, talents, medals, screams that extraordinary powers exist. I figured that information was sealed along with the chat channel until the newbie period ends. That led me to an important realization. The 30-day protection period is like school, the best time to grind abilities before real challenges begin. I'd been wasting energy on political games with Charles's group when I should have been farming medals. I had four so far: Walker, Crafting, Cooking, and Lumberjack. The first three were only beginner rank with small bonuses, but the mid-level Lumberjack medal gave me a full strength point and dramatically improved my efficiency. The medal system takes whatever skills I practice and turns them into concrete, permanent upgrades. Effort directly equals results. No empty promises. It's like school back home. Repeat, meet the conditions, gain the ability. Most people waste that opportunity chasing distractions. I wouldn't make that mistake here. Building the camp and grinding medals aren't in conflict. Both serve the same goal of surviving 3 years. Sitting by the fire in the dark wilderness, listening to the stream, I smiled to myself. Late nights really are the best time for thinking clearly. The night passed without trouble. Li Xianming slept like a rock while I stayed up all night, too energized by my plans to feel tired. At dawn, we ate some wild fruit and headed back to camp using the new route I'd drawn on the leather map. Li Xianming cleared the path while I tracked our direction and recorded resources along the way. This world had familiar earth plants and animals mixed with bizarre variants. Watermelon-like fruit hanging from trees, bamboo-like plants covered in flowers, rabbits with two tails. If I brought my notes back to Earth, experts would treat them like a modern version of the ancient classic of mountains and seas. By noon, I was about to give up on the new route and turn back when Li Xianming spotted our river, the same one we'd found on day one. The stream we'd camped by was a branch of it. Following the river upstream led us straight back to familiar territory. 2 hours later, we stood at the camp entrance. Arthur and Ambani saw us first, and were so shocked they nearly got crushed by a tree they'd been chopping. I shouted a warning just in time. Ivan ran over and hugged me, genuinely happy. Charles and Inoue, on the other hand, seemed more disappointed than relieved that we'd survived. Ivan admitted the camp had been directionless without me. People did random tasks, and nothing got done properly. I went straight to chopping trees. Being away for almost 2 days meant I needed to catch up on quota. With the mid-level Lumberjack medal, I finished quickly and kept going until fatigue set in. Li Xianming completed his share too. Back at camp, I noticed the wall had grown by several dozen meters. The 6-man group hadn't slacked off while I was gone. I tested the posts by pushing hard. Solid. That surprised me. At dinner, everyone sat on wooden stumps they'd made, a nice comfort upgrade. But there were only 7 stumps, none for me or Li Xianming. I walked up to Inoue and said one word: move. He turned red, glared at me, then shouted fine, and stood up. Then I did the same to Charles without even speaking. He hesitated, jaw clenched, but got up. The others watched and quickly looked down when I glanced their way. After the silent meal, I told everyone to stay and listen. I laid out new assignments based on what I'd found during exploration. The wall-building task stays, but they need to work faster. Food was running low. Tomorrow, Ivan and Li Xianming gather berries and mushrooms from known spots. Peel and Arthur handle fishing. Charles and his remaining 3 take both iron axes and chop 2 days' worth of wood for everyone. I finished talking. Who objects? Complete silence. Then it's decided. I didn't assign myself any tasks because today was for something more important: grinding ability medals. I'd figured out 2 ways to activate them. Either repeat a skill enough times, or meet certain specific conditions. Time to test the first method. I started with exercise. At dawn, I went to an open area and did 100 push-ups, 100 squats, and 100 sit-ups. The sit-ups nearly killed me. My abs were cramping by the end. But when I finished the last one, the system chimed. Fitness medal unlocked. It boosted my strength and agility slightly, improved my physique, and raised my stamina cap by 5%, from 100 to 105. The upgrade condition was doing all 3 exercises daily for 30 consecutive days. There was also a warning about hair loss, which made me think of a certain bald hero from anime. My strength didn't reach a full point increase on the panel, but I could feel it, maybe from 7.0 to about 7.5, getting closer to Ivan. Next, I made a straw dummy, wrote Inoue Saburo on its back in Chinese characters, drew a target circle on the front, and set it up 50 meters away. Then I started practicing archery with my compound bow. My first shot missed the dummy by 3 meters. I glanced around. Thankfully, nobody saw. I kept shooting, retrieving all 20 arrows each round, repeating over and over. After half an hour, I finally hit the dummy. In the knee. That small success fueled me to keep going until my arm couldn't pull the bowstring anymore. After 100 shots, the archer medal activated, arm strength increased, shooting technique improved, and accuracy up 20%. The upgrade requires 1,000 shots that all hit the target. At my current accuracy, that would take forever. Even the legendary strategist Zhuge Liang couldn't borrow enough arrows for me. My right arm was completely shot, so I couldn't attempt the third medal I'd planned. Instead, I tried something one-handed, fishing. I made a hook, line, and float from camp materials, baited with wolf meat, and sat by the pond. 1 hour passed. Nothing. The float would bob. I'd yank the rod, and find nothing. No bait, no fish. Over and over. These fish were somehow smart enough to steal my bait without getting hooked, yet dumb enough to get killed by thrown rocks. It was maddening. Meanwhile, Li Xianming and Ivan returned from foraging, saw me looking frustrated by the water, and completely misread the situation. Li Xianming told Ivan I was a selfless leader agonizing over the camp's development. Ivan nodded solemnly, and they both went back out to gather more food, inspired by my dedication. I was just angry at the fish. After 2 hours of catching absolutely nothing, the fishing medal activated anyway. It boosted my spirit stat and improved my ability to sense fish in the water. The upgrade conditions seemed laughably easy, just catch 3 fish. But after another hour of trying, I still had 0. One sardine even surfaced right in front of me and seemed to mock me with its single giant eye before diving away when I threw a rock at it. I decided to fish every evening going forward. It would upgrade the medal and feed the camp at the same time. I'd activated 3 new medals today: fitness, archer, and fishing. Not bad, but I figured the easy ones were mostly done now. For the rest of the afternoon, I wove 18 bamboo baskets and 9 carrying poles. Tomorrow I was taking everyone to mine iron ore from the deposit Li Xianming and I had found. With the whole camp empty, it was risky, but iron tools were more urgent than anything else. 2 iron axes were already transforming our efficiency. Imagine if everyone had iron tools and weapons. If we encountered wolves again, iron spears would change everything. The other teams came back with great results. The fishing pair caught over 50 sardines plus other river creatures. Li Xianming and Ivan gathered huge amounts of berries, mushrooms, and wild vegetables. Charles's group finished their 2-day wood quota. Food reserves were the best they'd been since we arrived. Dinner was a feast: roasted sardines, mushroom meat stew, fruit for dessert. Everyone recognized Li Xianming's cooking skills and agreed he'd handle all the camp's meals from now on. More importantly, they all sat quietly after dinner, waiting for me to assign tomorrow's tasks. One good meal had taught them that obedience means eating well. My authority was finally taking root. I announced we'd stop all regular work tomorrow to go mining. Ivan got excited immediately. As a blacksmith, iron was everything to him. I didn't explain details, just told everyone to rest well. Late that night, Li Xianming crept over to tell me something secretly. His chef class had leveled up. Daily cooking for 9 people had been pouring experience into him. The upgrade gave him 2 free attribute points to distribute, just like a real game. His talent also strengthened. He could now identify most foods for toxicity and had a much higher chance of cooking meals with special effects. He asked what to spend his points on. I told him to put both into strength. Tomorrow he'd need to carry heavy loads of iron ore. Each strength point adds roughly 30 to 50 pounds of carrying capacity, which is significant. Between his upgrade and my own growing stats, we'd haul back a decent amount. Next morning, everyone grabbed carrying poles and 2 baskets each. 9 of us heading out together with bows, spears, and iron axes. Nothing in this wilderness should be able to threaten us. We followed the river downstream to where the small stream branched off, then turned into rougher terrain following the markers I'd left before. Then I spotted something that froze my blood. A massive snake skin shed right across our path. The surrounding grass was flattened where the creature had moved. This wasn't here 2 days ago, meaning the giant python had just shed and was probably nearby. Panic erupted behind me. People begged to go back. Charles pleaded he'd never oppose me again. Someone announced they had a fear of giant creatures. I told everyone to shut up. It was just a discarded skin. Ivan came forward and quietly said he couldn't guarantee our safety against something that size. I cursed under my breath. Weeks of preparation, and now a snake skin might ruin everything? I made a decision. If we retreated now, the six-man group would never leave camp again. Development would stop, and we'd slowly die anyway, just later instead of sooner. Might as well gamble. I led everyone forward toward the iron mine instead of back to camp. Charles noticed we weren't retreating and protested. I told him straight. Either we mine the iron and bring it home, or we all get lost out here. His choice. We reached the open pit iron deposit without incident. I posted Ivan on guard duty while everyone else mined. The fear of the giant snake made the six-man group work at incredible speed. They filled all the baskets in under 30 minutes. Fastest I'd ever seen them move. I briefly considered building a furnace right here at the mine, but dismissed it immediately. Nobody would work where safety was uncertain, including me. Each person shouldered 2 baskets, over 100 pounds of ore, and we took the longer route back through the lake area to avoid the snake's territory. Nobody complained about the weight. Everyone understood what iron tools meant for our survival. We passed the beautiful lake, rested briefly, ate, then pushed on. After covering more than half the distance, I called another rest stop. People were destroyed. Hauling that much weight over 10+ kilometers through wilderness was brutal. Only Ivan and Li Xianming still looked somewhat functional, thanks to Ivan's natural strength and Li Xuanming's freshly upgraded stats. 10 minutes later, as we prepared to move again, I noticed the grass ahead shaking, something large rushing toward us. Danger! Weapons out! I shouted. The moment the words left my mouth, an enormous python burst from the grass, radiating overwhelming pressure. I shouted the warning the instant I sensed something wrong. Everyone grabbed weapons and formed a circle. Then the thing emerged from the grass, and all of us stopped breathing. Over 10 meters long, black scales gleaming cold. It flattened everything in its path. A giant python. Nobody believed their wooden spears could hurt this thing. People started backing away. I stepped forward immediately. If we ran, it would chase us down one by one. We'd all die. Before I could finish giving orders, the python charged straight at me. I was the only one making noise, so it saw me as the threat. I swung the iron axe with everything I had. The blade bit into its scales and flesh, but the impact launched me 3 or 4 meters through the air. I spat blood when I landed. Are you waiting to die? Fight! I screamed at the others. My hands were torn and bleeding, but I'd held onto the axe. The python had a deep gash from the collision. Iron beats flesh. That proved it could be hurt. Everyone attacked with spears. Ivan found an opening and added another wound. The python went berserk, sweeping people off their feet with its tail, then tried to coil around them for a crushing kill. Ivan and I hacked our axes into its body to prevent the coil, but the snake dragged us across the ground, smashing us against trees and rocks. Every impact drove the axes deeper. We hung on until we had nothing left. Then Li Xianming charged in from behind with a spear, screaming. The python turned and opened its jaws to swallow him whole. His spear lodged sideways in its mouth, saving his life. I seized that moment to drive a wooden spear deep into one of its wounds. It turned to bite me, but Ivan blocked its jaws with his axe. Kill it, we both roared. Li Xianming and Charles stabbed their broken spears into both of the python's eyes, driving them halfway in. The python thrashed violently and flung all 4 of us away. I hit a tree and spat more blood. No strength left. I could only lean against the trunk and watch. After several minutes of frenzied thrashing, the python let out one long hiss and went still. The system told me I'd gained a free attribute point from my human supremacy, talent for killing a powerful non-human beast. I'd also unlocked the hunter medal, all attributes boosted by 5%, with improved tracking ability. Powerful, but neither helped my immediate problem. I checked my stats. Life, 9 out of 100. Status, critically wounded, losing 1 life point every 3 minutes. 27 minutes to live. Strangely, I felt no fear. My mind was crystal clear, almost peaceful. I told Li Xianming, whose arm was broken, to cook the python's meat immediately. Whether we made it back to camp alive depended on him. Everyone looked to me for direction, even now. When the python appeared, they'd all thought it was over. The fact that we'd killed it with axes and wooden spears had cemented something beyond argument. Then I remembered the system had given me a second notification when the python died. I opened it, and I knew I was going to survive. The second system notification saved my life. My human supremacy, Talent had finally activated. Killing a powerful non-human creature earned me 1 free attribute point. I didn't hesitate. I put it straight into Constitution, raising it from 5 to 6. The effect was immediate. My life cap went up by 10 points. My status changed from critically wounded to wounded, and the life drain slowed from 1 point every 3 minutes to 1 every 10. I'd gone from 27 minutes to live to about 80. I stopped coughing blood. I leaned against a tree and watched Li Xianming, one arm broken, direct everyone to help him cook the python's meat. Nobody dared question why I wanted food instead of an immediate retreat. Even Ivan, half lying nearby in rough shape, managed to smile at me. His higher base stats meant he was handling the injuries better. Unfair as always. Half an hour later, Li Xianming ran over beaming with roasted python meat. The system showed it was a 1-star dish with special effects. First bite gives 1 constitution point, restores 10 life, and recovers a large amount of stamina. I ate it immediately. Another warm wave through my body. Constitution rose again, my status upgraded to light injury, with no more life drain, and my health climbed to 17. I was going to live. Li Xianming shared the meat with everyone. All injuries healed, all conditions cleared. Just like a game, which is exactly what this is. The python was 13 meters long. Nobody wanted to leave it behind after tasting what its meat could do. Ivan took on the job of dragging the entire carcass, carrying its head on his shoulders like the beast had come back to life. Everyone else split the remaining or between them. We were too poor to abandon anything. We retraced our route carefully. When camp finally appeared as the sky darkened, people nearly cried with relief. Some collapsed on the ground like they were lying in their own beds back home. The system offered 50 contribution points for donating the python, distributed by damage dealt. I got 10, 1/5 of the total. Everyone agreed to donate. The most urgent task now was preserving the meat with salt before it spoiled, which meant another trip to the salt mine tomorrow. Around the fire that night, people danced and celebrated their survival. Peel and Alec tried to pull me into their dancing. I ignored them. No girls around. So what's the point of showing off? What nobody knew was that about 3 kilometers outside camp, on a small hill, another python was coiled, far larger than the one we'd killed. Its eyes glowed red like lanterns as it stared toward our camp, hissing in what sounded like grief. It thrashed and nearly charged toward us several times before finally turning and crashing into the deep forest. I sensed something and glanced in that direction, but saw only darkness. Nothing there. A week passed since the mining trip, and the camp transformed. Ivan smelted the ore into iron and forged a tool for every person. Chopping efficiency multiplied several times over. Morning tasks that used to take all day now took 2 hours. The python meat was salted and preserved, though we were getting sick of eating it daily. The camp wall was half finished, with everyone working hard without me needing to push them. Nearly getting killed by a giant snake had motivated people more than any order I could give. Once everyone learned that class upgrades give free attribute points, laziness completely disappeared. Ivan hit blacksmith level 2 from all his forging. Peel the fisherman reached level 2 by catching endless sardines after his daily tasks. Arthur was a lumberjack. The daily chopping task was practically designed for him, and he leveled up quickly too. Meanwhile, I was a farmer with 0 experience and no farmland. So I asked Ivan to forge me a hoe, and I started clearing land. It was brutal work. First, I burned off the surface vegetation after cutting a fire break to protect our cabins. Then came the hard part, digging out every root, stone, and buried obstacle by hand with a hoe. Li Xianming helped when he could. I earned 1 experience point per 10 square meters of turned soil. After a full week, I had 1 mu of farmland, about 1/6 of an acre. The system valued the farmland at 30 contribution points, nearly as much as the python. Long-term assets are worth more in this game's economy. The real problem was what to plant. No domesticated crops exist in this wilderness. Li Xianming brought back various seeds from his foraging trips, but none clearly met my 2 requirements: short harvest cycle and high yield. I identified each seed with my farmer talent, planted small amounts of everything, and spread wood ash as fertilizer, a technique my grandparents taught me as a kid. I just have to wait and see what grew. The camp was surprisingly peaceful. Everyone was grinding their own class. No scheming, no conflict. Then Charles came to find me. He wanted me to create a hunting task and form a hunting team. His reasoning sounded noble. Snake meat was running low. My farm wouldn't produce yet. We needed new food sources. He'd been watching a herd of one-eyed deer nearby. I saw through him instantly. Your class is hunter, isn't it? His expression flickered. He tried to deny it, then admitted it. He needed hunting kills for experience, but nobody dared venture far from camp after the python encounter. His allies were drifting away. Peel and Arthur had gained confidence from leveling up and were becoming less obedient. Even Inoue and Alec were starting to ignore him. He was losing his grip and needed my authority to shift the camp's priorities toward hunting so he could level up and regain influence. I stopped digging and said nothing, letting him sweat. Standing by my farmland, I let Charles wait while I worked through something important in my head. Two realizations hit me at once. First, Charles had never run from danger, not from the wolves, not from the python. He'd even landed a killing blow on the snake's eyes. That didn't match his cautious personality unless he already knew combat, gave hunter experience. He'd figured out the class system before most people, just like me. He'd simply kept quiet about it. Second, and more critically, the camp master position controls the camp's development direction, which directly determines how fast each person's class levels up. When I assigned tree chopping, Arthur the lumberjack benefited most. If I ordered mining, Ivan the blacksmith wins. Farming benefits me. Hunting benefits Charles. Whoever controls the camp's priorities controls who gets stronger fastest. This game was brilliantly designed. External threats force cooperation, while internal competition over class experience keeps everyone scheming. The 1-month camp master term ensures constant power struggles. Everyone wants the seat because steering the camp toward your profession means faster leveling, and personal strength is the only thing you truly keep. I told Charles the First couldn't issue a new mandatory task this month, but I'd publicly support his hunting proposal at dinner. He was disappointed, but accepted it. I wanted to hunt too, not for class experience, but for medals. That evening, Charles proposed hunting one-eyed deer. The moment I agreed, everyone erupted with their own demands. Alec wanted more mining. He's a miner. Mbani wanted construction projects. He's a craftsman. Inoue wanted tailoring work. He's a tailor. Now I knew everyone's class. All 10 of us were producers. Every profession useful for building a settlement. The game had designed it perfectly. I silenced them and announced, tomorrow, everyone hunts the deer together. Safety in numbers. Charles shared his intel. While fetching salt for us, he'd noticed one-eyed deer visiting the salt deposit regularly to lick minerals. As a hunter, he'd track their pattern. They'd return in a day or two. We decided to dig pit traps along their approach route with wooden spikes at the bottom. 9 people dug 3 traps quickly under Charles's direction. His hunter talent clearly gave him good instincts for placement. My own hunter metal knowledge confirmed his choices were sound. I kept quiet. Officially, I'm just a farmer. A farmer who also hunts, mines, forges, cooks, fishes, chops wood, and does archery. Nothing unusual. We covered the traps with dead grass and leaves, placed berries the deer liked in the center, then hid ourselves at a distance to wait. Hunting with traps requires patience. We had bows, but no guns, and arrows that don't kill instantly just make wounded animals dangerous. So we crouched in bushes for 3 hours waiting. Charles was getting anxious. If this hunt failed, nobody would support another one. Then they appeared. 8 one-eyed deer, casually walking toward the salt deposit, nibbling grass along the way. Strange creatures. One big eye on their heads, but otherwise normal-looking deer. I set up a 3-sided ambush. Ivan's group circled behind the herd. Charles's group would drive them toward the traps. I positioned everyone else with bows ready. The deer had no experience with human tactics. They'd never encountered trap setters before. The fruit bait worked perfectly. The first deer walked right into a pit. The crash spooked the herd, and I fired the signal arrow. It hit one deer in the belly. Arrows flew from 3 directions, though most missed. The panicked deer tried to flee but found people on every side. They ran toward the traps, and 3 more fell in. The fastest ones escaped. We simply couldn't match their speed. But the one-eyed shot bled out during its frantic running, and we caught up to it. Final count, 5 deer. 4 from traps, 1 from my arrow. Everyone was grinning, especially Charles, whose hunter class was surely gaining experience. I ordered the living one kept alive. We had plenty of meat already, so why not try raising it? We dug some salt or two and headed back to camp. 5 contribution points each for donating the kills. Ambani and Inoue built a deer pen. Inoue asked for all the hides for his tailor class. 0 experience so far. I agreed. While everyone was busy skinning and butchering, I grabbed my fishing gear and headed to the river. Ever since unlocking the fishing medal, I'd been spending 2 hours daily trying to catch just 3 fish to upgrade it. Results so far, 0 fish caught. Every single attempt ended in disaster. Hook snaps, line breaks, rod cracks. Always at the last second. On day 7 of this misery, I received a new medal I hadn't asked for. Skunked medal, activated for 7 consecutive days of catching absolutely nothing. Its effect gives a small chance of triggering an unexpected reward while fishing empty-handed. Upgrading requires 30 straight days of catching nothing. I almost snapped my rod in half. This was insulting. I'm not skunked. The weather was bad. The luck was bad. That's all. I packed up my gear with a blank expression. I'd be back tomorrow. But just as I finished packing, I noticed something in the grass by the riverbank. I crept over and found 4 palm-sized eggs from some unknown animal. I checked that the parents weren't around, pocketed them quickly, and walked away casually. See, not empty-handed at all. A week passed after the deer hunt. We pinned the living deer, though it kept crying at night for its herd, keeping everyone awake. The successful hunt boosted everyone's confidence. People started exploring farther from camp. Peel and Ambani even built a wooden raft to check out the other side of the river. It's only 10 to 20 meters wide, but nobody had dared cross before because of what might lurk in the water. Peel figured from his daily fishing that the river was safe enough. Inoue made leather clothes from the deer hides, so we finally had something to change into. We all looked like cavemen, but at least we weren't wearing the same rotting earth clothes anymore. Ivan and Alec pushed for a second mining trip. Everyone refused at first. The python trauma was still fresh. But Ivan held up the giant snake head and pointed out we'd killed the thing. The route was safe now, and the camp was running out of iron for tool repairs. We made 2 trips in one day and brought back plenty of ore. Ivan asked to forge weapons instead of just tools. As a forging competition champion, weapons were his real specialty. I approved. An iron sword would far outclass my axe. Charles had gotten smarter too. Instead of organizing huge group hunts, he partnered with Inoue to set small traps for rabbits and other game. Charles hunted. Inoue got the pelts for tailoring practice. Smart arrangement. I opened another moo of farmland, practiced archery for metal upgrades, and kept busy every day. Li Xianming complained about cooking for 9 people, but never slacked off. He'd started producing special meals occasionally, dishes that restored stamina, cured poison, or temporarily boosted strength. He claimed that with enough leveling, he'd eventually cook food that literally glows. Around day 20-something, I noticed the camp atmosphere shifting. Charles started avoiding me. Others looked at me with competitive eyes. Then it clicked. The 1-month camp master term was almost up. They were preparing to challenge me for the position. I almost laughed. My contribution score was over 600. Charles, the runner-up, hadn't even broken 100. They were probably hoarding private resources to donate at the last minute, hoping to surprise me. Let them try. Li Xianming noticed the tension and got upset, threatening to stop cooking for them. I calmed him down. No point losing chef experience over this. Things would stay exactly as they are. On day 25, we placed the final post of the camp wall. Ivan hammered it in, and the entire perimeter was complete. Wooden stakes 3 meters tall encircling most of the camp, with only the riverside left open and 1 gate for entry. From outside, it looked like a fortress covering 1 square kilometer. The moment the wall was finished, everyone received a system notification. We earned contribution points for completing the wall task, 10 each, 15 for me as camp master. But then came something unexpected. The system detected that our camp now had basic defensive capability and automatically issued a camp upgrade mission. Completing it would make us a level 2 camp. The warning that followed made everyone freeze. The upgrade task involves combat danger, and we should prepare for battle. Nobody had expected that simply finishing a wooden wall would trigger something like this. Right after we finished the wall, the system dumped cold water on our celebration. The camp had unlocked an automatic upgrade mission, and it came with a combat warning. We grabbed every weapon and braced for attack. After tense waiting, I checked the details. The mission was called Wilderness Grey Wolves Revenge. The same pack we'd fought on day 2 was coming back. Estimated arrival: tomorrow at 18 hours 58 minutes and 45 seconds. 19 hours to prepare. I started issuing orders immediately. Ivan would forge all remaining iron into spearheads, 1 iron spear per person minimum. Li Xianming would cook as many healing meals as possible, no worrying about wasting ingredients. Charles would take 2 people outside the walls to dig pit traps. Everyone else would build wooden barricades from leftover lumber to stop wolf charges. Once people learned it was just the wolves and not some unknown horror, the mood shifted entirely. Some even joked about missing the taste of wolf meat. Fear comes from the unknown. A known enemy with a countdown timer is manageable. But I didn't let myself relax internally. If the game system calls it dangerous, it won't be simple. Everyone worked until dark. Charles's group finished the traps and came back inside. We closed the wooden gate, and for the first time, all 9 of us were behind proper walls. The security felt real. No wonder humans have always built walls against enemies. After dinner, Ivan kept forging while the rest of us made barricades. Everyone went to bed early to save energy for tomorrow's fight. I took the night watch with Ambani. I didn't know Ambani well. He was a craftsman by class and had worked hard on the wall, but otherwise kept to himself in Charles's group. My strongest memory of him was his disastrous cooking that had made 6 people vomit. The night was peaceful. Then around the second half of the watch, Ambani said he needed the bathroom and left with a torch. I told him to be careful and didn't think much of it. 10 minutes passed. He didn't come back. Then the pen deer started crying. Urgent, distressed sounds. I grabbed a torch and spear to investigate, thinking maybe some animal had gotten into the pen. I approached quietly. Ambani's torch was stuck in the ground beside the pen. So he'd come to check too? I walked up, raised my torch, looked inside. And, "What are you doing?" The scream woke the entire camp. People tumbled out of their shelters shouting about wolves. I'd only wanted to find out why the deer cried at night. Instead, I saw something I can never unsee. I'd heard stereotypes about certain cultural attitudes toward animals. I never imagined I'd witness it firsthand. That was a deer. An animal. A living creature. After seeing what Ambani was doing, I honestly couldn't tell which one of them was the animal. That night, everyone gathered around the fire staring at Ambani kneeling on the ground. What I'd seen at the deer pen had shattered my understanding of human behavior. The deer had been tied to a post, unable to move, and there were unmistakable signs of what he'd been doing. Suddenly, those nighttime deer cries every couple of days made horrifying sense. I was so furious I immediately used my camp master authority, spent 5 contribution points to launch an expulsion vote against Ambani. But the timing was terrible. With wolves attacking tomorrow, only Li Xianming voted to expel him. Everyone else, including Ambani himself, voted against. Losing a fighter before battle was too risky, even if that fighter was whatever Ambani was. Charles and the others stepped in to calm me down, making excuses about stress and pressure. It was like a scene from ancient court dramas. The emperor orders an execution, and all the ministers beg for mercy. My anger faded after the vote. The real problem was, what punishment actually works when the system prevents harming teammates? Someone with 0 shame is basically invincible. I settled on what I could. Ambani eats alone from now on. He processes and keeps that deer's meat himself. None of it enters the camp food supply. He must participate in all camp labor without complaint, or everyone votes to expel him next time. And I established a new camp rule. Animals in this camp are for eating only. Nothing else. Ever. Nobody slept after that. We sat around the fire, occasionally glancing at Ambani cowering in his corner. Strangely, the anxiety about tomorrow's wolf attack had completely evaporated. Hard to fear wolves when you've witnessed something far more disturbing. At dawn, we moved all the barricades and wooden spike barriers outside the walls, arranging them with the pit traps in alternating patterns. Our defensive plan was to fight outside the walls first, with the option to retreat behind them if needed. The wolves could only approach from one direction. Everywhere else was walled off. Li Xianming prepared lunch before the battle. When he brought out the meat stew, nobody touched it at first. Everyone was thinking about that scene. I gritted my teeth and shoved meat into my mouth. We needed energy. The stew turned out to be special. A system notification said all attributes temporarily increased by 5% for 2 hours. Li Xuanming's cooking had reached another level. Everyone started eating eagerly once they saw the buff, forcing the mental images aside. When death might be minutes away, everything else becomes secondary. We gathered at the gate fully armed. Iron spears, bows with iron-tipped arrows, axes. Plenty of weapons, but almost no armor, just deer-hide clothing. I made a mental note. If we survive, armor becomes a priority. The final minutes ticked down. Everyone held their breath. Arrows knocked, aiming at the tree line. Then a howl ripped through the forest, scattering birds and sending animals fleeing in every direction. They're here. Get ready. Everyone stared at the forest edge. After the emotional roller coaster of the wall completion, the upgrade announcement, and the Ambani incident, there was almost a sense of relief when the wolves finally came. The waiting is always worse than the fight itself. Within 2 minutes of the howl, bushes at the forest edge started shaking. I shouted for everyone to hold steady. We stood in a triangle formation, Ivan, Charles, and me at the front, the rest on both sides. Charles counted them as they poured out of the trees. 14 wolves. The pack had doubled in size since our first encounter a month ago. I waited until they were within 50 meters. Fire! Ivan and I screamed simultaneously. 9 arrows flew. I didn't bother checking results. I dropped my bow immediately and grabbed my spear. Bows are useless once wolves close the distance. Our preparations paid off instantly. Some wolves fell into pit traps and were impaled on stakes. Others leaped at us and got skewered on the wooden barricades. The 3 of us at front stabbed wolves mid-air with our iron spears. In the first clash alone, we killed 3 and wounded 2. The remaining wolves hesitated, circling at a distance. Then another howl came from deep in the forest, and the pack went wild. The alpha emerged, the same one from a month ago, but bigger now, with a scar across its face. It had spent this month hunting and growing stronger. Ivan and I exchanged a look. This wolf gave off a pressure similar to the python. The alpha didn't hesitate. It leaped over multiple traps, reached a barricade, and shattered it with one swipe. I thrust my spear at it, but missed. It lunged at me, so close I could see spit flying from its jaws. I wanted to dodge, but realized if I did, it would crash into the people behind me and shatter our formation from the center. I couldn't move. I braced my spear sideways and took the full impact. The force slammed through my body, but I held the line. Everyone else was locked in combat with the pack. No one could help me. The alpha came at me again. I dropped the spear, grabbed my iron axe, veins bulging in my arms. Come and die. I buried the axe in its skull. Blood sprayed everywhere. It felt like hitting stone. The wolf's claw raked down my face in return. Half my vision went red as blood poured into my left eye. I didn't stop. I went berserk. Axe blow after axe blow. 5, 6 times, smashing its head until half the skull caved in. The alpha wolf crumpled, lifeless. The remaining wolves saw their king die and fled into the forest like frightened dogs, leaving over 10 bodies behind. We won. Barely. Everyone was wounded. Without armor, we'd essentially traded blow for blow with the wolves. Win means life, lose means death. I sat down and finally felt the burning pain across my left eye. The claw had torn the skin at the corner, painful but not blinding. A scar was better than becoming one-eyed. The system announced our camp had successfully repelled the attack and would upgrade over the next 24 hours. But the wolf kills counted as an upgrade mission reward, no contribution points for anyone. The system was stingy as always. With the battle over, we turned to the wounded. Peel was worst, a chunk of flesh torn from his thigh, face white from blood loss. Li Xianming was feeding him healing food, which is exactly why I told him to cook extra recovery meals. As long as someone's life points don't hit 0, they can hang on. But fatal wounds can drain everything instantly. Just ask James, who's been growing grass on his grave by the river. Overhead, one-eyed vultures circled away into the forest, confused about why the wolves lost. I glanced up, but could only see blurry shapes with blood still clouding one eye. Li Xianming helped clean my wound. He'd been positioned at the rear during the fight. Everyone agreed our only healer needed protection. His special recovery meals could literally save lives, making him the camp's most valuable person. He carefully wiped the torn skin around my eye with boiled cotton cloth, and every touch stung like fire. After 15 minutes, he confirmed my eye itself was fine, just the skin around it was slashed. He bandaged me up, turning me into a one-eyed pirate look. With my constitution at 7, the wound would heal in 2 or 3 days. We hauled all 8 wolf carcasses back to camp. Each one was the size of a small calf, enough food for a very long time. Then we started clearing the battlefield, moving barricades along the walls, and preparing to fill in the trap pits. That's when Charles said something unexpected. "How about we take today off?" We all stared at him, but he was right. Since arriving in this world, we'd been spinning like tops without a single day of rest. Nearly a month of constant tension, chopping, building, fighting, scheming. Our nerves were frayed to breaking point. Charles even pointed out that Ambani's incident might repeat if the mental pressure kept building. When everyone looked to me for the final word, I agreed. The wall task was done, the wolves were beaten, and there was genuinely nothing urgent. Everyone needed to decompress. The cheer that erupted was the loudest sound our camp had ever produced. People threw down their tools and sprinted to their cabins. I understood completely. Before the walls went up, nobody could truly relax. Even sleeping, the smallest noise would jolt me awake. We'd all been running on survival pressure and willpower for weeks. The wall's completion should have been our moment to celebrate, but the upgrade mission and wolf attack had stolen that. Then the Ambani nightmare. Then the battle. Nobody had slept. I closed the camp gate and didn't go to my cabin. Instead, I found a patch of grass and lay down, hands behind my head, staring at the sky. In all this time in a new world, I'd never once looked up at the clouds. Every day was just survival. Gathering, building, fighting, managing. Back on Earth, even after an exhausting day, home meant real rest. Thinking about Earth made me think about cola, fried chicken, barbecue, hot pot. Before I knew it, my eyes closed and drool slipped from the corner of my mouth. I dreamed about eating hot pot, drinking cola, and watching videos back home. Li Xuanming's voice calling me for dinner kept getting louder until I jolted awake, momentarily confused about where I was. I'd slept the entire afternoon on the grass, and it was the best rest I'd had since arriving in this world. The sunset painted the sky red, and every bit of exhaustion was gone. Back at the fire, everyone was joking and laughing, the first time I'd seen this. The oppressive weight that had hung over the camp since day one had finally lifted. Even Ivan was loudly demanding food instead of his usual stoic silence. We sat at a proper table that Ivan and I had built, eating Li Xuanming's mushroom wolf meat stew. The system noted the stew boosted health and stamina recovery. I noticed only the alpha wolf was labeled Wilderness Giant Wolf, while the others were just gray wolves, similar naming to the giant python. There seemed to be a pattern with these stronger creatures. Then Charles asked what the camp's next plans were. I genuinely told everyone to take it easy until the camp upgrade finished. Rest up. Do what you want. But Charles immediately accused me of scheming, pretending to give everyone time off while secretly working to earn contribution points for the camp master election. Everyone looked at me suspiciously. Even Li Xianming seemed to think Charles had a point. I was honestly just being nice, but nobody believed it. Fine. I played along sarcastically. You've seen through my brilliant plan, Charles. You're truly my most dangerous rival. Camp master? Not in your next life. The truth was my contribution score was in the hundreds. I didn't need tricks. But apparently the strong are destined to be misunderstood. I'd thought these battles had united us. Clearly not. Humans will always find reasons to compete internally. It can't be fixed. After dinner, I grabbed my fishing gear and headed to the river. The others watched me leave and exchanged knowing looks, obviously convinced I was secretly grinding contribution points through fishing. 2 hours later, I walked back empty-handed. 0 fish. Again, Ivan casually asked how the fishing went. Without thinking, I blurted out that I'd caught some sardines but released them because they were too small and needed to grow more. The lie came out so naturally it surprised even me. My face felt hot. I'm tired. Next time I'll catch some for fish soup, I said, and practically ran to my cabin. The next morning, people woke up and headed for the gate out of habit to chop trees. Then remembered the wall was finished. Suddenly nobody knew what to do. A month of daily chopping had become routine, and stopping felt strange. I grabbed my fishing gear. 2 hours later, I came back empty-handed again. Li Xianming tugged Ivan's sleeve before he could ask about my catch. I picked up my bow and practiced archery instead. Fishing would work out next time. I was sure of it. At noon, we all gathered and waited for the camp upgrade countdown to finish. 3, 2, 1. The system announced. Human shelter camp upgraded to level 2. Camp safe zone expanded to 10 square kilometers, though future expansion would depend on actual territory we control, not automatic upgrades. 9 people managing 10 square kilometers was impossible, but the extra safe area meant more resources and a much better shot at surviving 3 years. Then came the big one. The civilization connection feature activated. The system detected our civilization was based on Earth and asked if we wanted to connect. Everyone screamed, "Connect," without hesitation. We'd been dreaming of home every night. But no, the game wouldn't let us return until the 3-year mission was complete. Cold mechanical voice, zero sympathy. The connection did unlock something massive, though. The camp shop now synced with all Earth technology. Every blueprint humanity has ever created appeared. AK-47s, cars, airplanes, even nuclear bombs. The catch? The contribution costs had so many zeros they'd make your head spin. 9 people could work for 30 years and never afford a nuclear warhead. Unless we got more people. And then the system delivered. Because our camp reached level 2, Earth's human civilization earned 100 new player slots. In 24 hours, the game would randomly select 100 people from Earth and bring them here. They could join our camp or start their own, their choice. "Will there be female players?" Alec blurted out. Everyone stared at him. He doubled down. "Don't pretend you weren't thinking it, you cowards." Everyone looked away in silence, which basically proved his point. Then came the naming requirement. Our camp needed an official, permanent name. Immediately, everyone started shouting their country's name: American Civilization Camp, Western Night Civilization, Great East Asia. I cut them all off. It's called Human Civilization Camp. End of discussion. Nobody could argue. We're all human. The name was neutral and fair. Finally, the system granted every current player the Camp Pioneer title. Its effects were significant. 1 free expulsion immunity, and once per month, any pioneer can spend contribution points to propose a camp development task. If a majority votes yes, it becomes mandatory for everyone, a weaker version of the camp master's power. Pioneers only need 2 times the contribution cost to skip a task, while the camp master's tasks require 10 times. Some of the others smiled when they read the pioneer effects, thinking they'd gained leverage against me. But I did the math instantly. As long as I stay camp master, the pioneer title actually gives me an extra task slot per month on top of my existing authority. It wasn't a loss for me at all. Watching everyone's satisfied grins, I realized this wasn't just my win. Everyone gained something. For once, the game had created a situation where we all came out ahead. Everyone was thrilled about their new pioneer title and its powers. They'd always resented how much authority I had as camp master, so getting a similar ability, even a weaker version, satisfied them. It also made them more determined to compete for camp master next term. Then the system gave me an exclusive camp master reward, 1 civilization point. The description said it could enhance a civilization's potential, foundation, and strength. When I asked for details, the system explained that using it on Earth could permanently expand the planet's size, accelerate resource generation, raise the upper limits of the human race's potential, and make scientific breakthroughs easier. Everyone stared at me with burning jealousy, especially Charles and Inoue. Their good mood from the pioneer title evaporated instantly. Li Xianming theorized that the whole game's purpose was collecting these civilization points. We earn them here, feed them to Earth. Earth's civilization grows stronger, and that strength feeds back to us. The other civilizations in the chat channel were probably competing for the same thing. At its core, it was resource competition at a cosmic level. Arthur asked if the point could be used on an individual instead. The system issued a sharp warning. Civilization points are strictly for the civilization, not personal use. Everyone visibly relaxed. They didn't want me getting even stronger. I was slightly disappointed, but realized it made sense. My parents are still on Earth. A stronger human civilization benefits them, and ultimately benefits me too. The system had mentioned that our race has an upper limit on individual power that can only be unlocked with civilization points. So I'd benefit either way. The group started debating how to handle the 100 new players arriving tomorrow. Charles saw it as his chance to recruit supporters before the camp master election in 2 or 3 days. He figured he could trick newcomers into gathering resources for him to earn contribution points. But based on our own experience, 10 people from different countries who couldn't stop fighting, I doubted 100 random humans would be any more cooperative. While everyone argued about housing, walls, and food for the newcomers, my mind was on something else entirely. Should I use the civilization point on Earth now, or save it? My instinct said use it immediately, the sooner the better. I trusted my gut. System, use the civilization point on Earth's human civilization. It worked. Then the system asked if I wanted to issue a civilization announcement, letting every human on Earth know who contributed it. Yes, as the old saying goes, getting rich and not telling anyone is like wearing fancy clothes in the dark. When the system asked if I wanted the whole civilization to know my name, I didn't hesitate for a second. This was the ultimate flex. My name broadcast to every human on Earth, and I'm safely in another world where nobody can find me. Perfect crime. I used the civilization point on Earth and chose the full civilization announcement. What I didn't know was what was happening back home at that exact moment. My parents had been searching for me for over a month. They were at a police station in our small city, exhausted and desperate, asking the officers if there were any leads. My mom's eyes were red from crying. The police suspected I'd been kidnapped by a fraud ring with overseas connections. Then the announcement hit. Every human on Earth heard the same mechanical voice at the same time. The civilization survival game exists. A player named Lin Che led 8 people to build a level 2 shelter. In a wilderness world, Earth's human civilization has been connected. 100 new players will be randomly selected tomorrow, and Lin Che contributed a civilization point that strengthened every human's physical potential and raised their upper limits. The entire planet erupted. My parents heard my name and collapsed into their chairs with relief. Their son was alive. The civilization point's effect was immediate and real. Across every hospital on Earth, patients with chronic conditions spontaneously healed. Paralyzed people stood up. Athletes shattered human records. Every person on the planet felt themselves become stronger and healthier, even if just slightly. Governments worldwide scrambled emergency teams. In China, senior leaders ordered the highest-level treatment for the families of anyone selected tomorrow, and specifically told their people to find out who Lin Che is and take care of his family. The internet exploded. People called me Lin God. Someone paralyzed for 3 years posted a tearful video thanking me for their miraculous recovery. Korea tried to claim my name sounded Korean. That got shut down fast. Everyone was debating whether they wanted to be selected as one of the 100 new players. Some were eager. Some pointed out it was a brutal survival game, not a vacation. National TV channels started broadcasting wilderness survival tutorials. None of this I could see or know. I just stood in our little wooden camp, satisfied with my decision, imagining the look on people's faces back home. What I didn't expect was what happened the moment I contributed the civilization point. The system notified me that since the point strengthened all humans, and I'm human too, my own stats jumped. All 4 attributes went up by 1 point each. Strength 8, Agility 6, Constitution 8, Spirit 7. 1 step closer to being the camp's strongest. Everyone else got boosts too, though not equally. Li Xianming gained 1 point each in strength, agility, and constitution, but nothing in spirit. Ivan, that monster, got 2 strength points and 1 constitution, pushing his strength to 10. When he told me, I went quiet. The road to being the strongest was still very long. Charles reluctantly thanked me, then immediately brought up the new players again. I told him simply, assign people by profession. Hunters hunt, fishermen fish, lumberjacks build. Everyone does what their class is best at. Then I walked away before he could pitch his scheme to exploit the newcomers. I knew Charles wanted to manipulate the new arrivals into gathering resources for him before the camp master election. But players are unpredictable. We'd been here a month through life and death situations and still couldn't stop fighting each other. Fresh players would be even harder to control. I spent the rest of the day on my routine, fitness exercises for the metal upgrade, tending my farmland, enjoying the peaceful feeling of pulling weeds and watering crops. If not for all the danger, this could have been a relaxing farming game. The next day at noon, gray fog materialized in camp and 88 new players appeared. Men and women, all races, from all over the world. Not the 100 promised. 12 had chosen to start their own camps instead of joining ours. Before I could say anything, the newcomers went wild. They were shouting, pointing at the sky, staring at the forest, and one guy was already checking out a woman's legs. Then someone recognized me. That's Lin Che. Lin God. Suddenly, everyone was screaming my name. Apparently, the civilization announcement had made me globally famous on Earth. People knew who I was. They were calling me Lin God and asking for a beginner tutorial. I had no tutorial. We'd figured everything out through trial and error. But what we'd learned could save these newcomers a lot of pain. I got them quiet and asked about the missing 12. Someone explained that the game had offered a choice: join my existing camp or start a new one alone. Most chose safety, but 12 gambled on independence. 12 fewer workers. I felt a pang of regret. That was 12 perfectly good pairs of hands, gone. Well, good luck to them. They'd need it. I was about to give the newcomers some survival tips when someone in the crowd already got punished, lost an attribute point for attacking a fellow player. They hadn't even been here 5 minutes. Compared to how cautious we were on day 1, this batch's quality was something else. I kept my speech short. For points. This isn't a game. Death is real. There's a grave with grass growing on it to prove it. You can't level up by fighting monsters unless you're a hunter class. Do your own profession's work for experience. Contribute resources to the camp for contribution points. And welcome to Human Civilization Camp. Let's survive 3 years. Then I left to make stone axes. I discovered that items previously counted as personal property could now be donated to the camp again with the new player wave. Time to farm contribution points. I noticed about a third of the newcomers had East Asian faces. Good ratio. I won't pretend I don't have preferences. After dealing with Charles and his constant power plays for a month, my opinion of Westerners had taken a hit. It's not that they're all bad. It's that Charles and I think fundamentally differently. I want to build the camp up together. He wants to control who builds it and how. That's the core conflict between us. The night before, Charles had come to me privately and said something that caught my attention. He told me he knew what I was really afraid of. What happens when the newbie protection ends and we meet other civilizations? He said I was deeply insecure and hiding it behind a tough front. He was right. The truth is, I'm not naturally a strong leader. I'd honestly prefer someone more capable in the camp master seat. But I looked at everyone, and they were all worse options. I became camp master through a bit of luck, then forced myself to act tough. I wanted to eliminate Inoue not just because I disliked him, but to intimidate everyone else. Being feared is safer than being respected. I don't enjoy fighting. In survival games back home, I just farmed endlessly, hoarding resources until they overflowed. But this game doesn't let me play that way. So when Charles proposed a deal, he gets first pick of new players. I recruit freely without interference, and whoever wins Camp Master next gets full cooperation. I agreed. That's why he stayed quiet during my speech today. But when the crowd erupted at hearing my name, I changed my approach. Instead of actively recruiting, I'd let people come to me. The difference matters. If I chase people, they hold the power. If they seek me out, I hold it, and they feel grateful for being accepted. Soon enough, a square-jawed guy named Lu Zheng brought 18 Chinese players to join me. Li Xianming verified their identity by asking them to say, "Chinese people don't scam Chinese people." They said it. He approved them. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Lu Zheng told me Charles and Inoue were already out there recruiting. 3 other Chinese players had refused everyone, choosing to go solo. After they introduced their classes and talents, I accepted them all, on the condition that they follow orders. 18 new people under my command. That civilization point announcement was already paying dividends. I quickly assessed the 18 new members' professions and planned how to organize them. Most were lumberjacks. Some things never change in survival games. The priority was securing food first, because I knew the camp would split apart within days. I was right, but it happened faster than expected. That same afternoon, Charles, Inoue, and Alex showed up with their newly recruited followers. Inoue spoke first, eyes gleaming with renewed arrogance now that he had people behind him. "We think the camp's resources should be redistributed." I stared at him for 2 seconds and said one word: "Scram." His face turned crimson. Even with backup, he didn't dare touch me. The camp rules still applied. Charles stepped forward and proposed that everyone split up and develop their own areas independently. I cut him off in front of all the new players and reminded everyone how his group had separated before, failed miserably within 3 days, and come crawling back begging me for food. That rattled his new recruits. I could hear them whispering. Charles rushed forward, panicked, and quietly asked what I wanted. We negotiated. 3 conditions: First, they move out of the current camp within 5 days and build their own shelters. He tried for 10 days. We settled on 5, with access to existing tools. Second, we divide the 10 square kilometers. I take 1/3, including the riverside. He hated it, but agreed. Third, regardless of who becomes camp master, everyone cooperates fully on camp-wide tasks. He agreed instantly to this one, clearly assuming he'd win the next election. After he left, Lu Zheng and the others asked why I'd agreed to split it all when I'm camp master. I asked them a simple question: would you accept a foreigner leading you? They immediately said no, then understood. Those Westerners would never truly accept a Chinese leader either. I couldn't force them to be loyal, and camp rules prevented me from forcing compliance through strength. Better to separate and focus on building our own power. The real priorities are leveling up classes, building defenses, and crafting better equipment, not wasting energy on political fights. We have 20 mouths to feed now. Every minute spent arguing with Charles is a minute not spent preparing for whatever comes after the newbie protection ends. I sent Li Xianming to show the newcomers around and gather food while I kept making stone axes for contribution points. Then Ivan walked up with 3 people, 2 men and a woman he'd recruited. "Can we join your team?" he asked simply. I stood up, patted his shoulder, and said, "Welcome, no questions needed." Ivan was an SSR tier teammate, a blacksmith with superhuman strength who could forge any tool or weapon we'd ever need. With him, our equipment problems were solved. My team grew to 24. The camp was buzzing with activity, completely different from the quiet days before. From above, we must have looked like ants swarming the forest edge. On the new player's second day, I had Li Xianming take 3 women to gather food, while everyone else built houses. When I told them they'd each get their own cabin, the excitement was almost too much. One guy said he'd been on Earth for 30 years without owning a home, and now he gets one in another world. I didn't have the heart to tell him it was just a tiny wooden shack. The construction speed was incredible. These people had all been strengthened by the civilization point back on Earth, and their enthusiasm was infectious. One morning of chopping gave us enough lumber for everything. This was the power of Chinese work ethic. If all my teammates had been Chinese from the start, we'd have built a fortress weeks ago. Li Xianming reported that Charles had taken most of the camp's wolf meat when his group moved out. No surprise there. But I'd anticipated this. Weeks ago, I'd secretly had Li Xianming stockpile food in his cabin. Enough for our 20-plus people to eat for a week. Charles thought we'd just been eating carelessly. I told Li Xianming to keep quiet about it and continue building reserves. Ivan came asking about iron ore. All the existing stock had been forged into tools. I told him to wait until the houses were done. Then we'd organize a full mining expedition. With Charles's group gone, I could finally build the camp my way. Every cabin aligned in neat rows, perfectly spaced. My 2 farmland plots were perfectly square. No more ugly, randomly placed buildings cluttering up the view. Call it a quirk, but orderliness matters in survival games. By afternoon, over a dozen cabins stood complete. Nobody had slacked off. Working with people who actually cooperate felt completely different from the constant friction with Charles's group. Exhausting, but deeply satisfying. Then 3 visitors appeared at dinner. The Chinese players who'd chosen to go solo. After one day alone, they discovered that lone wolves don't survive here. They'd tried getting food from other groups and been refused. We were their last hope. Before they could finish asking, I handed them bowls and chopsticks. Eat first, talk later. My mom always told me, when someone's in trouble, help if you can. And no matter what, eat properly. These 3 wolfed down their food, and when they slowed down, I noticed tears dropping into their bowls, mixing with the broth. The next day, they joined us. 27 people now. I sent Ivan with most of the team to mine iron while I finished the remaining cabins with a smaller group. 3 days flew past. Then every player in the camp heard the system announcement. The newbie protection period is about to end. All players, prepare yourselves. Day 30. The system announced the newbie protection period was about to end. I called everyone together, including Charles's group. While I'd been preparing for danger, they showed up excited, thinking it was time for the camp master election. Typical. I told them what actually mattered. The civilization chat channel was about to unlock, and nobody should post anything that reveals our camp's location. Only Charles looked serious. The rest stared blankly, completely oblivious to the danger of other civilizations knowing where we are. Then the protection ended. The system's message was chilling. Weather would now match the real wilderness world. Wild creatures would no longer be restricted from our area, and all camp safety rules now aligned with the actual wilderness. Meaning our first 30 days had been easy mode. The consistently sunny weather, the lack of major predators near camp, all artificially controlled. We'd been playing house. Charles's group rushed back to their area. I opened the civilization chat channel. It was chaos. Hundreds of messages from alien civilizations. Some warned about catastrophic weather events coming now that protection was over. Others were predator civilizations that roam around destroying camps and stealing civilization points. One civilization called Apocalypse preached peace while apparently being the most violent. There were threats, taunts, and deception everywhere. Not a single trustworthy voice. Then I got a critical alert. Someone in our camp was trying to post in the channel. The system informed me that as camp master, I had the authority to mute all camp members from the civilization chat. I activated the mute instantly. No exceptions. Somewhere in camp, whoever tried to send a message got notified. You have been muted by Camp Master Lin Che. I could imagine their frustration, but I didn't care. One careless message could get us all killed. Our situation was like that novel, The Three-Body Problem. Survival depends on staying hidden. If another civilization finds us, it's either we destroy them or they destroy us. We're far too weak for contact right now. Maybe once we develop firearms, we can consider it. Better yet, if we stay undiscovered for 3 years, the mission ends and maybe we go home. I checked the civilization rankings. Humanity ranked somewhere past 6,000 out of over 7,000 total civilizations. Nearly dead last. I looked at the top 10. Every single one had hidden their civilization name. As I watched, more civilizations started hiding too. I cursed and immediately hid ours as well. These civilizations were all playing the same game. Reveal nothing, trust nobody. The ranking board became a joke. Everyone could only see their own position, nothing else. I closed the channel with a quiet sigh. One step at a time. After hiding our civilization's name on the rankings, I stopped worrying about what I couldn't control. Weakness is the original sin. The only answer is getting stronger. That's a lesson China learned through blood and fire. I browsed the camp shop's newly expanded catalog. Earth's entire technological history was available, from stone axes to nuclear bombs, but the costs were astronomical and we lacked the raw materials for most things anyway. Some people were still chopping trees with stone axes. Instead of chasing advanced weapons, I decided the practical goal was getting all 27 of my people equipped with iron spears and armor. With our enhanced stats, we could wear heavy iron plate armor and still move freely. I found several armor blueprints. Personally, I love the Tang Dynasty Mingguang armor for its defense and style, but I'd ask Ivan what was actually feasible to forge. My daily routine continued. Archery practice was going well. I could consistently hit the straw dummy's chest from 50 meters now. The Archer medal upgrade was 3 or 4 days away. The Walker medal was also close to leveling up just from daily walking. My fitness medal training had an interesting side effect. My upper body kept getting more muscular, and I wore fewer clothes during workouts. Our team's tailor, Su Qingxue, walked in on me shirtless and screamed, then peeked through her fingers while pretending to cover her eyes. I told her she was drooling. She ran off red-faced. Then Charles's group arrived for the campmaster election. Inoue opened with his usual barking. Enjoy your last moments as campmaster. I didn't even acknowledge him. Why argue with a dog? My silence hit harder than any insult. He completely lost his composure. Charles tried being diplomatic, but I ignored him too and sat in the main seat with my eyes closed. I wanted to watch this play out. Then the moment came. Charles mentally donated all his private assets to the camp. His contribution score shot up to 130. He opened the leaderboard, confident of victory. Impossible, he screamed. He was in 4th place. Above him sat Inoue at 150 and Arthur at 180. Those two had been secretly stockpiling and pretending to stay below Charles the whole time. They'd been playing him from the start, never truly loyal, just waiting for this moment. But their joy lasted exactly as long as it took to open the leaderboard themselves. Impossible, they both screamed simultaneously. 2nd place. Both of them. Despite all their scheming, they were still behind me. Neither would become campmaster. All three stared at me with the same expression, disbelief and shock. After a full month of plotting, hoarding, and backstabbing each other, none of them could even come close. They had no idea how much I actually had. My contribution score was over 600. Watching Charles, Inoue, and Arthur scramble for the camp master seat was like watching clowns perform. I'd overestimated them. I thought they might break 200. Not even close. The system announced the second month's election. It reviewed the camp's first month. Successful upgrade to level 2. Survived the newbie protection period, built walls and shelters, prepared weapons and tools, opened farmland, all under my leadership. One member died, but it didn't hinder development. Then it confirmed what everyone already knew. I had the highest contribution, so I remained camp master for another month. The new players heard the announcement, and their eyes lit up with ambition. Camp master? If Lin Che can do it, why can't I? Nearly 100 people now, and every one of them scheming. I almost admired this game's talent for selecting power-hungry individuals. I sighed theatrically. This game has really burdened me. How could someone like me possibly deserve to be camp master? Charles, Arthur, and Inoue's faces went dark. They stood to leave, but I mentioned I wanted to discuss this month's camp tasks. They froze, exchanged glances, and grudgingly sat back down. When it comes to self-interest, pride goes right out the window. Charles kept glaring at Arthur and Inoue, his loyal allies who'd been secretly hoarding contribution points to steal the position from him. The backstabbing was delicious to watch. But entertainment aside, I had a real plan. With nearly 100 people, a single camp-wide task would waste potential. I'd been thinking about this since the new players arrived. Break tasks down by profession. Lumberjacks chop wood together, miners mine together, hunters hunt together. This way everyone gains class experience while contributing to the camp. More importantly, it would shatter Charles's faction system. They'd organized by nationality and race. I'd reorganize everyone by profession, mixing nationalities together in work teams. That's why I never opposed their recruiting. They were essentially training my workforce for me. Every person in this camp is my citizen. Loyal or rebellious, cooperative or difficult. As long as they're alive and working, they're useful. I couldn't propose this directly without arousing suspicion, so I played the humble leader card. I told everyone that the camp belongs to all of us, that I need their input on task planning, and that even new players can speak up. I made it sound like democracy. Charles and the others were suspicious of my sincerity, but couldn't deny my track record. Everything I'd done had genuinely built the camp. So they accepted the premise and started thinking about how to steer the tasks toward their own professions for experience gains. That's exactly what I wanted. The moment they started arguing for profession-based tasks, they'd be building my system for me, without even realizing it. I sat back and watched the show unfold exactly as planned. Charles proposed forming a hunting team, same idea he'd pitched when we were just 9 people. Before I could respond, Arthur slammed the table and called him out, saying everyone could see he just wanted hunting experience for his class. Arthur argued that fishing, foraging, and farming were all more reliable food sources, then pushed for another wall-building task, clearly angling for his lumberjack experience. Then Alec jumped in, calling Arthur a sawdust brain. He argued we needed mining and forging first to make proper tools. He even tried quoting a Chinese proverb, but butchered it so badly that someone in the crowd of new players shouted the correct version and called him a country bumpkin. I nearly broke character laughing. Charles quickly pivoted, pointing out that hunted animal hides could be made into armor, pulling Inoue back into his alliance despite just being betrayed by him minutes ago. Impressive political flexibility, honestly. Within moments, the camp had split into exactly the factions I wanted. Charles and Inoue pushing hunting plus tailoring, Arthur pushing logging, Alec and Ivan pushing mining and forging, and Li Xianming and Peel defaulting into food gathering. Nobody mentioned my farmer class. Apparently agriculture was as irrelevant as Shaanxi cuisine. Fine by me. Farming is a late-game powerhouse. Every great civilization in history was built on agriculture. Then I turned to the 80-some new players who'd been watching the drama. I asked for their opinions. Charles scoffed. What do they know? Classic Western elite arrogance, and it cost him. Someone in the crowd raised their hand and said exactly what I'd been waiting to hear. Why choose just one? Adults want everything. If all these tasks help the camp, let's do them all. Divide the work by profession. I could have kissed that person. They'd said what I couldn't say without looking manipulative. Li Xianming worried that splitting up might reduce efficiency, but the crowd shut that down. Who's going to slack off when we all want to go home to Earth? With public support. Behind me, I issued the month's tasks without caring about the sour faces on Charles, Arthur, and the other pioneers. I organized everyone by profession. Charles leads all hunters for scouting and hunting. Li Xianming leads all chefs and fishermen for food supply. Arthur leads all lumberjacks for wall expansion. Ivan and Alec lead all miners and blacksmiths for ore and equipment. And I take everyone else, farmers, craftsmen, tailors, for farmland development, construction, and making armor. Every person must earn 10 contribution points daily. The system confirmed the task to everyone in camp. My plan had worked perfectly. The old faction lines drawn by nationality were now scrambled by profession. Charles's people would be mixed with strangers. Arthur's loyalists would work alongside mine. Nobody could maintain their little power blocks when their daily work groups were completely reshuffled. And they'd all walked right into it thinking it was their own idea. The monthly task covered everything: hunting, logging, fishing, mining, forging, farming, building, and crafting. Each person picks one track and must earn 10 contribution points daily. No reward for completion, but failure means losing 10 points, and 3 consecutive failures cost a random attribute point. The task resources don't count as extra contribution either, so anyone wanting to earn beyond the minimum has to finish the mandatory work first. Most new players had assumed the discussion between us old players was just a power struggle. They didn't realize until the system notification hit that this was a binding order from the camp master, backed by game mechanics, not just words. Their first thought: we got played by the veterans. They weren't wrong. The information gap between first batch and second batch players was enormous. Some newcomers had already been tricked by Charles into handing over gathered resources in exchange for worthless promises. Seeing how contribution points actually worked was a rude awakening. Charles immediately tried using his pioneer privilege, spent 5 contribution points to propose that the hunting team gets priority access to all public iron weapons and tools. I voted no instantly. So did most old players and nearly every new player who wasn't a hunter. His 5 points vanished for nothing. Nobody was falling for that twice. I assigned Su Qingxue to count up all the farmers, tailors, and craftsmen among the new players. She protested that she'd just graduated college and wasn't sure she could handle it. A fresh graduate? Perfect worker material. I told her nobody was more suited for the job, and if anyone gave her trouble, come find me. She trudged off looking worried. I put Lu Zheng in charge of scouting a Tenmu plot for new farmland. He was concerned about his craftsman class not getting experience from farming, but I promised him wall building work later. One by one, I delegated everything. A camp master doesn't do errands. That's what teammates are for. Every minute I spend on administration is a minute not spent grinding metals. With everything assigned, I decided to walk the camp perimeter. My walker medal was almost ready to upgrade. It had been gaining progress passively from daily movement since day 1. Plus, I needed to survey the newly expanded 10 square kilometer area. Technically, as camp master, all of it belongs to me. The territorial deal I'd made with Charles was effectively void now. After today's reshuffling, he wouldn't have enough loyal followers to control his zone. For safety, I grabbed my spear and bow. Li Xianming ran up wanting to come along. Li Xianming and I walked along the edge of the camp's newly expanded territory. Small animals were everywhere now. The newbie protection ending meant wildlife was no longer restricted from our area. With my bow and the Archer Medal's 20% accuracy boost, I was hitting everything within 50 meters. Li Xianming was soon buried under so many kills he had to start hanging them from his spear. He told me he'd tagged along because he couldn't stand the atmosphere back at camp. Everyone forming cliques and scheming for power. I was surprised he could read the situation so clearly. He said he wasn't stupid, just uninterested in politics. He'd learned plenty from novels and history. Then he pointed out something real. My task system would turn the entire camp into a competitive pressure cooker. He was right. I knew exactly what I was doing. By making contribution points the only path to power and freedom, I was forcing everyone to work themselves to the bone. Trust and friendship would become luxuries nobody could afford. But I didn't care anymore. Human civilization needed raw strength to survive here, not warm feelings. I wanted to turn this camp into a hungry predator, not a tame pet. Whether that beast eventually devours me or I ride it, that depends on skill. I kept shooting animals along the way, racking up progress on the archer medal far faster than target practice ever gave me. These creatures had never encountered humans and barely reacted to our approach. Near camp, the walker medal finally upgraded to intermediate. The effects were excellent. 20% less stamina while walking, 10% speed boost, and a new active ability. Spend 20 stamina points to double my speed for 3 seconds, with a 5-hour cooldown. My first active skill from any medal. That meant other medals might unlock abilities too at higher levels. The upgrade to advanced rank requires 1,000 kilometers of walking though, which is daunting. Back at camp, Li Xianming wanted to parade our kills around for everyone to see. I stopped him. It's not like I'd caught a fish or anything worth showing off. I went to tend my farmland. My farmer class was still level 1 while Charles and the others had reached level 2 months ago. Embarrassing for a camp master. The crops I'd planted from Li Xianming's forage seeds were sprouting, but I had no idea what they'd produce. I'd cleared 2 mu but only planted just over 1, not enough seeds for the rest. Humanity spent thousands of years domesticating wild plants into crops. I couldn't replicate that in months. If I had enough seeds, I'd drag every person in camp into a massive land-clearing operation. Something deep in my genes craves seeing mountains of grain, impenetrable walls, and unstoppable military force. Gather everything useful, bring it all inside, make it all mine. I was lost in that pleasant fantasy when someone interrupted me. I was deep in a fantasy about mountains of grain when Lu Zheng ran up with a plain-looking man named Chun Laoshi. The man pulled a handful of corn kernels from his pocket. Real earth corn, brought over accidentally, just like my lighter on day 1. He'd been carrying them when the game snatched him. The corn hadn't triggered any donation prompt because the quantity was too small. The system considered it worthless. But to me, these seeds were priceless. I bought them from Chun Laoshi for 10 contribution points, which thrilled him since they'd been worth 0 in his hands. I also gave Lu Zheng 2 points as a finder's fee. The transaction exposed a problem though. With nearly 100 people now, we needed a proper currency system. Contribution points can't be traded directly between players, so we're stuck with primitive bartering. I filed this issue away for later. I soaked the corn to prepare for planting, the first step toward turning my farming fantasy into reality. Meanwhile, the camp's social dynamics were exactly as chaotic as expected. Most new players ignored Charles's recruitment attempts and formed their own small teams. Only a handful stayed loyal to him. Su Qingxue got mocked by some players who said she was only helping me because of my looks. She came to me upset, and I reassured her, then sent her to Li Xianming to collect contribution points as payment. Anyone who works for me gets compensated. She recruited 8 more people for my group, 3 farmers, 3 craftsmen, 2 tailors. 5 of the original Chinese players who joined me left to form their own teams. I didn't stop them. The camp had over 100 people scattered across more than a dozen groups. It was messier than college dorm politics. I was basically a Zhou dynasty emperor, technically the supreme authority, but in practice only my direct followers listened. The difference was I wasn't just a figurehead. My team was the largest, I controlled task assignments, and everyone knew I could vote to expel people from camp. That kept things relatively peaceful. Over the next 2 days, everyone scrambled to meet their daily 10-point quota. It wasn't actually that hard. 10 standard logs or 20 pounds of food would do it. Once people saw their class experience climbing and contribution points accumulating, the work frenzy became self-sustaining. Resources piled up so fast we ran out of storage space. I had craftsmen build warehouses. The momentum was contagious. I kept grinding metals alongside my duties. Everything was progressing except the fishing metal, which stubbornly refused to budge. I even found and chopped down 2 century-old trees for the lumberjack metal's advanced upgrade. Buildings rose from nothing. New walls extended outward. Farmland expanded. Exploration pushed further every day. The camp was transforming daily, exactly as I'd envisioned. For the first time since arriving, it rained. The newbie protection was truly over. Weather was no longer artificially controlled. I checked my cornfield first thing in the morning. The sprouts were breaking through soil, filling me with satisfaction. Farming gives you honest results for honest work, unlike office jobs back on Earth. After the initial excitement wore off, Many players were sinking into a dull routine. No phones, no good food, just mandatory tasks, bad meals, and leaky cabins. Li Xianming remained popular, though. His cooking stood head and shoulders above everyone else's, including the other chef-class players who had the title but not the skill. Some players stayed intensely motivated, grinding contribution points nonstop. A few had already built rafts to explore across the river. Li Xianming observed that these people never complained about the strong or about their circumstances. I agreed, though I noted that I was one of those strong people, and I was the one who created these circumstances. These past days I'd been swamped with petty disputes. Players constantly dragged me into arguments over resource distribution and personal conflicts. Since fighting inside camp was banned and fighting outside risked injuries that hurt tomorrow's productivity, they'd come to me for judgment instead. I'd become a public servant wiping everyone's backsides. It was eating into my metal grinding and farming time. So when Lu Zheng rushed over with 4 people, I waved him off before he could speak, assuming it was another squabble. Then he said someone was missing. I went serious immediately. A player named Vandal had chased prey alone into the deep forest yesterday. His teammates weren't worried at first. He'd done it twice before and returned safely. But he hadn't come back last night or this morning. They'd asked Charles for help, but he said it wasn't his problem. One teammate openly suggested they forget about Vandal so they could split his share of contribution points. The other 2 silently agreed. A fractured team with 0 loyalty. Missing for a full day in this wilderness almost certainly meant he was dead. But I needed to know what killed him, to protect everyone else. I used my pioneer privilege to issue a camp-wide proposal. Form a search party immediately. Everyone gather at the camp gate within 30 minutes. Anyone who refuses won't receive my help for any future problems. The vote passed in 30 seconds, though 7 people voted against. I noted who they were. Ivan, Li Xianming, and Lu Zheng arrived within 5 minutes with their people ready to go. I had Ivan distribute the newly forged weapons and armor to everyone joining the search. I told Li Xianming to bring that thing he'd been working on. People trickled in over the next half hour, some grumbling about interrupted tasks. I listened without reacting. They had a point. Next month, I'd build buffer time into the task schedule for emergencies like this. There was another reason for the public search announcement. If Vandal was still alive, he'd receive the game notification too and know we were looking for him. If he had any sense, he'd either rush back to camp or head to his last known location to meet us. Something about this disappearance felt off to me, though I couldn't say exactly what. The 30 minutes passed. Everyone was assembled at the gate. 30 minutes passed. The camp gate was packed with players, most looking annoyed, like office workers dragged into an emergency meeting by their boss. But they came, because they'd seen my warning. No participation means no future help from me. Early arrivals got iron weapons and armor that Ivan and Li Xianming handed out, a reward for coming quickly. Latecomers got nothing. Some players noticed the significance. They'd been begging for iron tools for days and getting refused, yet now weapons were being given freely. That meant this situation was serious. I didn't care about their grumbling. I needed them standing at that gate, even if they cursed me while doing it. This crisis was my chance to plant a seed in everyone's hearts, a seed of human solidarity. I'm a farmer. If I can plant seeds in soil, I can plant them in minds. Su Qingxue reported. 97 total members, 1 missing, 6 no-shows. I told her to forget the 6. Time was up. I stepped in front of the crowd and spoke plainly. I told them this search wasn't optional. If any one of them went missing tomorrow, I'd launch the same operation. I didn't care about skin color or nationality. We share one identity, human. Internal competition is our business, but external threats demand unity. This game is called civilization survival. We're all trapped here together. When someone faces mortal danger, we might be their only hope, and someday that someone might be you. I hope that when you're in danger, you won't look behind you and find nobody coming. I hope you'll see all of humanity rushing toward you. I finished speaking and walked straight out the gate toward the forest without waiting for reactions. My core group of 20+ followed immediately. Then a big bearded man named Zhang Xianxing shouted from behind. Lin Che, your attitude about saving people, I believe you. If I'm ever in trouble, I trust you'll come. Count me in. That broke the dam. One after another, people called out and joined the march. Every single person left the gate. The The camp stood empty. At the forest edge, I organized everyone. Mac and I took point. Ivan guarded the rear. Women in the center, men on the edges. Lu Zheng marked our path. Li Xianming carried his specially prepared supplies, stamina meatballs he developed from wolf meat and berries. Fist-sized, filling, quick stamina recovery, and they keep for a long time without spoiling. We reached the spot where Mac's team had last seen Vandal. He'd chased prey deeper into the forest alone while his teammates turned back. One man against the wilderness. How brave did he think he was? I found no useful clues at the site. I had everyone rest and eat a stamina meatball, then picked 15 people to go deeper with Ivan and me. Half an hour maximum. If we found nothing, we'd turn back. Everyone else would wait here. Whether Vandal was alive or dead had become secondary. What mattered was that nearly 100 people had followed me into a dangerous forest to save one person. The seed I'd planted, that humans protect their own against outside threats, no matter how much they fight internally, had already taken root. We pushed deeper into the forest for about 10 minutes without finding anything useful. I was about to call it and head back. 30 minutes was the limit I'd set, and I wouldn't endanger everyone for one person. Then someone spotted it. A torn piece of cloth hanging on a bush, with dried, blackened blood dripping down. My first instinct was that Vandal had been injured and fled, but something didn't add up. The blood was on the bushes at waist height, not on the ground. And the trail led deeper into the forest, away from camp, the opposite direction a wounded person would run. Then it hit me. I'd been staring at the ground this whole time. I looked up. A scrap of cloth hung from a tree branch high above. The blood wasn't from someone running on the ground. It was dripping down from the canopy. Whatever killed Vandal moved through the trees. "Everyone watch above," I shouted. Max started stuttering, face white. I followed his gaze upward, and my blood went cold. 10 meters away, on a thick branch, hung what was left of Vandal. His body was torn apart. His chest was hollowed out, organs dangling from branches. And right next to the corpse, 2 creatures were feeding. They weren't animals. They were humanoid, 4 limbs, with oversized forearms, bat-like heads, red eyes, and protruding fangs. They wore scraps of cloth over their bodies. When they turned toward us, meat still hanging from their mouths, I understood their hissing sounds perfectly through the game's translation. Food? In that instant I knew. These weren't monsters. They were players from another civilization. Everyone be careful. These are players from another civilization. Before I finished speaking, both creatures launched from the branch straight at us. I drew my bow and fired. The arrow struck one mid-leap, and it screamed and crashed into the bushes below. The second one kept coming, closing 10 meters in a heartbeat. No time for another arrow. Ivan and the others thrust their spears forward. The iron tips punched through its body easily. Blood and flesh against steel. Steel wins every time. But the thing was tough. Even with 4 or 5 spears buried in it, it kept thrashing. I grabbed my axe and split its skull open. 1 blow, 2, 3, until it stopped moving. Then I sprinted toward where the first one had fallen. Ivan understood immediately and shouted for everyone to follow. We couldn't let it escape and report our location back to its civilization. I caught up quickly. It was stumbling away, wounded and terrified. Fear means intelligence. Intelligence confirms it. This was a civilized being, a player. I shot it twice more from range. Every arrow hit. We surrounded it, but kept our distance. I ordered Ivan to pin its limbs with spears. We drove long spears through all 4 of its limbs and pinned it to the ground alive. Only then did I check the game notifications I'd been ignoring. From the moment those creatures attacked, the game had been sending notifications. I just couldn't check them mid-fight. Now I read them. The creatures belonged to the subterranean ghoul civilization. I'd killed one of their players and earned 10 contribution points. Our relationship status with their civilization had changed from neutral to mortal enemies. Just as I guessed, they were game players, not wild animals. When I looked at the captured one closely, it was even more disturbing than I'd first thought. Its forearms ended in sickle-like blades with tiny serrations, useless for delicate work, but deadly weapons. Its legs were clawed like a hairless beast. No ears, just exposed ear canals. Its mouth split into 4 flaps, revealing rows of needle-sharp teeth inside. It kept screaming at me. The game's translation system worked on alien languages too, apparently. "Release me. I'll eat you." Piece by piece, I ordered my team to blind it, plug its ears, gag its mouth, break its remaining limbs, and bind it for transport. Nobody flinched at the cruelty. After seeing what these things did to Vandal, nobody felt any mercy. "Spare me," it whimpered. I noted that. It feels pain. It begs. It has intelligence. Important information. We cleaned the scene, erased our traces, and rushed back to the main group. The situation had escalated far beyond a missing person search. Vandal was dead, in pieces, hanging from tree branches. But a bigger problem now existed. Another civilization was operating in the same forest. Our activity ranges overlapped. Another encounter was inevitable. If I could extract intelligence from the prisoner, their camp location, numbers, capabilities, we'd have a critical advantage. Back with the main group, everyone stared in shock at the two creatures. When I explained everything, the ghoul civilization, them eating Vandal, the implications, most people immediately wanted to kill every last one of them. Only a few stayed silent. I quieted everyone down and sent Ivan away with the prisoner, out of earshot. Then I said something that stunned them all. "I want to take you to wipe out this ghoul civilization. No talk about retreating to camp, to plan carefully. No diplomatic options." I quoted the concept from a famous science fiction novel back on Earth. We're all trapped in a dark forest. Every civilization hides. No civilization trusts another. Every civilization will try to destroy the others. And right now, I told them, we may have already been discovered. Everyone went quiet when I said we might be exposed. They understood the consequences. No more peaceful development. Constant fear outside camp walls. Someone asked how I could be sure we'd been discovered. I shot back. "Do you want to gamble that we haven't?" He shut up. I told them to abandon wishful thinking. The only way to guarantee our safety is to destroy this ghoul civilization completely. A dead civilization is the only good civilization. People started debating. How do we find them? Can we win? Shouldn't we go back and prepare? I cut through the noise. Going back to camp would kill all momentum. Once people feel safe again, they'll get comfortable and keep delaying until the ghouls show up at our doorstep. "Shut up. We have no time. All our weapons are already here." The few people who stayed behind won't change anything. Once Ivan gets their location, we move immediately. I listed our advantages to build their courage. First, our iron weapons cut through ghoul flesh easily, while they use no tools at all, just claws and teeth. Second, we have intelligence, a captured prisoner being interrogated while they know nothing about us. Third, we outnumbered them with our entire camp mobilized. Fourth, if they're also a level 2 camp, their numbers should be similar or smaller. And the final point I saved, killing one ghoul earns 10 contribution points, enough to cover today's missed task penalty. This battle, humanity will win. I told everyone to rest and check their equipment. These weren't trained soldiers. They were ordinary people a month ago. Fear was natural. I'd been terrified facing wolves for the first time too. But fear doesn't help. We all have to pass this test or die. I went to check on Ivan's interrogation. The ghoul was a bloody mess, barely alive. Ivan had gotten the approximate location of their camp, but nothing else useful. These creatures weren't as intelligent as I'd assumed. More like beasts that had just recently developed basic awareness. Barely civilized. That was one more advantage for us. "If it's useless, kill it," I said. A spear through the skull ended it. The player who struck the killing blow lit up. 10 contribution points, just as promised. A white man stepped forward and introduced himself as a forensic scientist from Earth. He asked for 10 minutes to examine the two corpses for weaknesses. Brilliant. I hadn't expected that kind of expertise among the new players. I sat down to rest for the first time since this all started. My stamina was down to 50-something. Around me, the forensic specialist was dissecting the ghouls while muttering to himself, drawing strange looks from everyone nearby. 10 minutes. Then we march. I sat on the ground with my eyes closed, pretending to rest while checking my stats. Despite the brave speech I'd given, I was terrified. They called me Lin God, but this god was just a normal person pretending to be calm. The truth is, I'm so afraid of death that whenever I sense a threat, I have to destroy it completely until the fear goes away. You make me scared? Then you die. My strongest asset was my bow, near-perfect accuracy within 50 meters. With someone covering me, I'd be devastating on the battlefield. 10 minutes passed. I opened my eyes and looked at Li Xianming standing before me. This chubby kid had trusted me since day one. Back then I'd been wary of him. Now I trusted him completely. Trust is a luxury between people. I leaned close and whispered, "Keep yourself alive above everything else." The forensic specialist Keki had found something crucial. The ghouls' hearts are located under their front limb armpits, not in the chest like humans. Pierce the heart, and they die instantly. The alternative is destroying the skull completely, but that's harder. I shared this with everyone. One more edge in our favor. Nobody backed out. Even those who usually opposed me stayed quiet. Everyone understood, this wasn't my fight alone. When someone leads from the front, even cowards find temporary courage. I memorized every face. I used to think all Westerners looked alike. Now I could see each person clearly and distinctly. I didn't know how many would come back alive. Maybe none of us would. But so what? Living in constant fear of discovery was worse than facing the threat head-on. Move out. The column marched in silence. When we passed the spot where Vandal's remains hung from the branches, everyone stopped and stared. Nobody spoke. But something changed in them. A fire ignited from deep within. The same primal rage I'd felt when I first saw a human treated as food. From their hearts, their souls, their genes, pure fury. Now they understood why I insisted on total annihilation. A civilization that eats humans cannot be allowed to exist. A girl asked softly if we should bury Vandal first. I told her we'd bury him after we've destroyed every last ghoul. And if we all die trying, we'll be buried alongside him in this strange world. The mood shifted completely. What started as reluctant obedience had become unified purpose. One goal: exterminate every ghoul. As we pushed deeper, animal carcasses hung from more and more branches, skins and skulls swaying in the wind. The ghouls' barbaric feeding habits marked their territory like signposts. These creatures had barely evolved beyond wild beasts. I noticed some of the women turning pale. I wished I hadn't needed to bring them, but we needed every person. I hoped they'd all survive, but if they couldn't overcome their fear, death might be merciful. The remains grew denser until they covered almost every tree. We were close. This should be the area. Everyone remember. Aim for the heart under their front limbs. Before I could finish, the bushes around us erupted with movement. Something was charging straight at us. Deep in the forest, surrounded by animal carcasses hanging from every branch, the bushes around us started shaking. Low growls came from every direction. We hadn't found their camp. They'd found us first. Ambush turned into head-on battle. No problem. I'd planned for this. Circle formation. Spears in front, axes behind. Remember their weakness. The heart under the front limbs. Before I finished, ghouls burst from the bushes on all fours while others dropped from the trees above. Kill. Ivan and I screamed it together. The collision was instant and violent. Several people got knocked down, but their spears and axes cut into the ghouls as they fell. One ghoul charged me directly. I stepped forward and drove my spear straight through its armpit. Its blade arm stopped centimeters from my nose. Dead. Our circle formation held. The spear wall kept the ghouls from breaking through. Only about 20 of them, far fewer than our 90. When I shouted the number, courage flooded back into the terrified faces around me. The ghouls were outmatched. Their arm blades were deadly but shorter than our spears. In combat, reach wins. They couldn't penetrate our formation. Then they adapted, climbing trees and hurling animal skulls down at us. Smart creatures. We had no shields, and several people got hit. I ordered everyone with a bow to fire upward. My own arrows were devastating at this range. Nearly every shot hit, sending ghouls tumbling from the branches where our ground fighters finished them off. We killed over a dozen quickly. The surviving ghouls climbed higher and started shrieking, calling for reinforcements. I shot faster. More fell. Finally, the last few escaped through the canopy. We'd won the skirmish, but the real battle was coming. Those screams would bring the main force. I called out asking who was wounded. 3 people lay on the ground, pale and bleeding. But instead of answering, they started crying and begging. Don't abandon us. We can still fight. Please don't leave us behind. They thought I was going to discard the injured before the next fight. That hit me like a punch to the gut. I never even considered abandoning anyone. Does anyone here know first aid? I roared. Get over here and treat them now. Li Xianming, bring your healing food. A woman who'd studied nursing rushed forward. Li Xianming came running with his stamina meatballs and recovery meals. The 3 wounded players went silent. Then everyone around me went quiet too. I could see noses reddening and eyes getting wet. They'd all feared the same thing, not dying in battle, but being thrown away once they were hurt. Now that fear was gone, I was furious, not at them, at this whole damn game for putting ordinary people through this. I brought you out of that camp, and I will bring every single one of you back, even if it's just your body. Until I'm dead, I abandon nobody. Women, stop fighting. Your job now is saving the wounded. Li Xianming, give them everything you have. Ivan, hold the front line against their first wave. Hold it. Everyone else, remember one word. Kill. 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 The roar echoed through the forest. Whatever fear remained had been burned away by something stronger.